Good morning, everyone. How is everyone? Yeah, I just got up quite late. Yeah, we had a long Zoom session. Went really well. I was in and out. I don't know who turned up at the times when I wasn't there, but no, it was interesting. But yeah, full on. Richard, good to see you, mate. I know you were around for quite a bit of the session, on and off, popping in and out. So yeah, thanks, mate. It was good to see you there. Lukey, how are things? And trouble. Yes, it did go pretty well, but very long, very long. Yes, really, really long. Yeah, just managed. I just got in, quickly shaved and took a pee and then said, looked at the time and said, because I'd actually got on Bartstream and I said, nah, I don't have time for a shower. So I'll leave that for after when I finish. Yeah, it's one thing. I'll sleep through an alarm anyway. I have to do 6.5 hours. I'm out in 5 minutes, but I have to do 6.5 hours and I'll just sleep through an alarm clock, anything. I just go right through. So it's a good thing in one regard, because I do get at least 6.5 hours sleep, even when I've been up for a long while. But yeah, but it's still, yeah, cutting it very, very fine, so to speak. Bless you as well. G'day, Gary. Thanks for being at the Zoom session, mate, as well. Good to see you there, and thanks for participating, giving us a heads up on some of the stuff that's happening in your backyard and your neck of the woods, so to speak. It goes for 24 hours. It goes for 24 hours. So there's, as I said, people can pop in, even if they just pop in for an hour or whatever. You can pop in as long as you like and pop out. I'm not always there. There's a number of people like Paul from further south from me. He had a long conversation with UAE Biff from the United Arab Emirates. He had a bit of a long conversation, chats about life and family and stuff like that, from what he told me. And so a lot of people just got on, interacted with different people, got on, got off. Some came, interacted with me, just talking, just general. Others wanted to ask some questions, my opinion on certain things. And we talk about all sorts of things, geopolitics, the current situation with Jabba the Hutt, all sorts of things, sort of censorship, totalitarianism, the signs of it, how you feel when you're in such a state, when you feel uncomfortable saying things, this light version of authoritarianism, stuff like that. So we covered a lot of different aspects. So some people found it so interesting they didn't want to leave, and eventually I had to pull the plug. And that was after 20, what was it, 27.5 hours. So it went for quite some time, and eventually there was I was chatting with a guy from Germany, and eventually I had to pull the plug, and I pulled the plug at the moment, and then gone. So that was a long session. Robert, good to see you, mate. So I'm still waiting for the dawn effect, Jonathan. I'm still waiting for the dawn effect to kick in and get some energy from my body, because I still haven't eaten anything. So, Analytic minded. Where were you? Hello, mate. Good to see you. I was expecting you to turn up, or did you turn up and I wasn't there? May have happened like that. Yeah, that's why I do those sort of things for I'll be doing another Zoom session next week as well. I'm sort of thinking about doing it every sort of, I'm gonna do it next week, but, then I'm not su I'm gonna see how it plays out, whether I do it every week or not, because I don't have to be there. It's really for other people, the community, to sort of come along and chat with everyone and have that interaction. And you know, I don't want to become like, I mean, this is me. This is the live streams, me answering your questions, me doing little videos on certain subject matters. That's me. I want the Zoom session, yeah, okay, I'll be involved in them, but I want also you guys to basically, as part of my subscribers, part of the community and all that, to come along and chat with each other, talk about all sorts of things. It's more an opportunity for you guys to interact as well, not only with me, but with yourselves. So um, that's the whole idea behind it. Have you heard about the peaceful UK protests happening tomorrow? Now we do. Now we know. Yes, very much suppressed. Chris Marsden recently posted a discussion with Stephanie um, Seneff about glyphosate and deuterium on his channel. It reminded me of Harry, the deuterium in particular. Okay. The only problem with, I like Stephanie. She's pretty good. I think there is only one issue with some of the actual glyphosate issue. I talk about the antibiotic effect and stuff like that. About sort of the glycine sort of substitution and some of these other things, about we don't have real mechanistic evidence for that exactly happening. And there is some research that I've looked at that shows it may not be happening. So yeah, we still need experiments to show that mechanism. And until I've seen an experiment to show that mechanism, and when I've seen other experiments, they have been in rodents, not showing that effect. Yeah, it's a hard one. I think some of the other stuff that she talks about is quite interesting, and I do have agreements with her about sulfur, the way it acts in terms of endothelial function, about the negative charge. She doesn't really talk about. I'm surprised she doesn't talk too much about earthing, because that enhances that negative charge of the sort of that pericellular matrix. So I'm Yeah, well, maybe she's not really as aware about that element of it, but I do have some sort of question marks over some of um, the pronouncements on glyphosate. Um, but we need experiments. We need some more research in that area to really clarify that clearly. I mean, I'm not, poo-pooing on her, definitely, but I think sometimes she, being a non-scientist, coming from an IT background, like myself to some extent, the difference is I don't do that. I don't make absolute pronouncements. I'm very careful, because I know empiricists, scientists do not make absolute pronouncements. We do need the experimental stuff to basically, make those pronouncements. You have to basically replicate something over and over again to be able to, with confidence, with high statistical inference, even, to make a certain pronouncement, either as a cause and effect, or as thousands of fold of statistical significance in terms of very strong inference. And so we're still not there with some of that stuff. So yeah, but it's interesting that Chris basically brought Stephanie on in that regard. But it's probably less controversial stuff. I have differences with Chris on the Randall cycle and a couple of other things, the way he views things. He, coming from the Weston A. Price Foundation and all that, they do have a lot of, you could say, similar thoughts on glyphosate and things like that. So I'm not surprised they had a chat together in that regard. But surprised that he's actually getting himself a bit up to date on deuterium. So that's interesting. May have to go and check that video out just to see what they actually discussed. Next week sometime when I get a chance. It's not going to be today. G'day. Yeah, good to say hello to everyone, Lukey. Yes. If you wanna come on, let me know and I'll send you a link, mate. Tommy, good to have you here, mate. And Bruce, g'day, mate. If one is going to reintroduce and consume dairy, do you recommend organic, grass-fed, conventional dairy or raw dairy? It depends what state somebody's in. If somebody's still got some underlying health issues and all that, would prefer people use raw dairy for, you've got a whole lot of important peptides and a whole lot of, things like lactoferrin as well, and a whole lot of immunomodulating factors that will have some positive effect on that person. If somebody's going to, if they're going to bring in conventional milk and all that, organic and stuff like that, which is better than many of the others, as long as it's not homogenized, I would say that, make sure your gut you don't have gut permeability and a whole lot of other issues at that stage. It varies so much how people react. So, yeah. And it probably just indicates how permeable their gut is or not, or how many issues they have with their stomach, acidity and stuff like that. So it can vary quite a bit. So you need to have a bit of a background and know exactly where people are. So that's part of it as well. Good morning, Shell. I was expecting you to turn up. What happened? Busy on the farm? Nice shave. You're looking smooth today. It was quick. It was, yes, probably a bit of roughness here and there. So it's not a perfect shave, but it's a passable shave. Let's put it. Quickly wash my face and so I could wake up and get going. So as I said, I'm still waiting for the dawn effect to kick in. Yep, will do. Yeah, so I've really enjoyed some of the parts of last night's sort of session, you could say. Probably went longer for what I thought. Then I looked at the actual time and I go, oh shit, God, this is getting late. So that should be coming through now, Lukey. So, Anyway, I'm going to live through my door today. I'll drop the link to Lucan when I get on the laptop about 20 minutes to see he can share it here, if that's okay. Yep. Even I know what it's going to be probably about, but I'll use cryptic sign language, so we don't get too with the senses. Temporary backup parents home for medical exams, beach trip after New Week and then holiday season. Fair enough. Going back home for a bit of holiday. Yep. Hope your parents are well and all that. So we'll chat soon anyway in that regard. So you weren't there for 24 hours. Slacking, Harry? Yeah, slacking. Definitely slacking. No, I had to be out in other places. I ran the session really late the previous night, And then eventually looked at the time and go, it's 2 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock, get to bed. And then it sort of went beyond 2:30. And then I said, I have to get to bed. So I went late the previous night as well, 2:30, got to bed, slept through the alarm clock, got up, then got on the early session and then was talking to Angela for quite from the UK, Ireland, Angela from Ireland, and then I was on there for about 2 hours with her, and then I realised, oh shit, and Sean was sending me messages, and I had the energy then at least. I got in, I did a quick shit shower and shave within about 12 minutes and got out, and I was shocked how quick I got out and got dressed within 12 minutes. And I said, yeah, I've got energy at the moment. But at this point in time that I got up, I'm still sort of half, just waiting for the dawn effect to really kick in to wake up properly. So I just basically said, oh, bugger it, I'm not going to do what I did yesterday. I just shaved, went to the toilet and left it, did a pee and then left it at that and said, nah, bugger it. Yeah, slacking very much. Very much, yes. Yes. But not bad for a 55-year-old in terms of energy, capacity to do all these things in days. And I have to go over to Dad's lunchtime today, and then so it's never ending with Harry's life. So there's always something to do. G'day, Scott. Yeah, it was good to see you there as well, mate. Morning, folks, from my holiday stay on the Sunshine Coast. Yes, very nice up there. Hopefully after the 15th, you're not in lockdown like the rest of us. Yes. HD, good to see you, mate. Oops. Gotta cycle through these quickly. Still having gastric problems. I have noticed it flare up when eating deep fried food like pork meat and pork rinds. This could be a cause and effect, right? Yeah, it's very hard to say. Sometimes, yeah, in some people, like it can have a sensitization in that regard. I would, for the stomach sort of issues, there still maybe a few things have not really sorted themselves out completely and all that. And I need to sort out a video on some of the bacteria as well to cleanse the small intestine and the stomach of any pathogens and all that could also be problems in that regard, because there's a lot of things when it comes to those sort of things that can interplay. There's also things that can have an effect. Some people, because they've got underlying certain issues, then they take a bit of dairy as well, and that dairy can, sort of like the casein one, it can have a slowing effect on the motility, exacerbating a problem. So it's trying to pin down things. I sort of say, take everything away and then go back to a standard thing, steak and all that, see how that all settles down after a week or two, and then bring in a few other things and see where you're at, and then drop me an email, and then I'll have an idea of what could be at play. It makes it easier that it's not as simple as it's just fried food. That just maybe having some effect, but I don't think necessarily it's the only thing. What summer? Are you kidding, Robert? Hobart and summer? It's been all over the place. One day it's slightly warmer, then the next day is slightly this and that. Yesterday it was sort of just like a constant, it was like trying to drizzle, but it didn't really drizzle, sort of thing. But it was sort of lukewarm, and so it was sort of, I had my raincoat on, and I was wondering where it was, but yeah. So it was interesting, an interesting day. Next week, apparently, we're going to, but it was the UV down here was really high. It was in the high nines, really high. But Tasmania's like that. It can be overcast and have really high, so you can still get, burnt or end up, pinky like I am at the moment on my face. So yeah, it can be still quite intense because of just when we're in the elliptical orbit around the sun, when we're in our summer, the southern hemisphere is slightly just a tinge closer to the sun, and so the intensity of the UV is much higher down here. Yeah, it was nice. A really long walk for quite a few hours. I was out there. It was sort of said to people I'll be away for 5 hours, but I ended up being away for a bit longer. Than that. So by the time I got back, then I had a quick feed. So before I got back on the Zoom meeting again for a while, so for quite a while. So that was interesting. It was sort of the early evening, right through to the crack of dawn. Hold on. Ling's outside. Bloody hell. Hello Kitty's outside. Give me a sec. Good. Is that the hassle? Thank you. Go away. Yeah, okay. Later. Go away. Bye. Just had the courier company. Hello Kitty jumped around. Oh, didn't get kidnapped. I can only wish, God, they could do a few things to me just to give me a bit of excitement in life, So anyway, I'm deprived in other areas. But yeah, Hello Kitty just jumped around. She actually told the guy, she put down a name for me so they didn't end up taking it away. That's actually really good because I've ordered all these sort of pork rind snacks and stuff like that. She goes, "You promised me one of those." And I said, "Go away, I'll give you one later." So I just left it there. I'll have something stuff to enjoy. Yes. And hopefully Dad's MSM's also come, so I'll have to take that over to him today. So he'll be happy. Bloody hell, everything's happening today. Oops, don't do that. Need to talk more next time. Was just listening. Look, mate, this isn't, the Zoom sessions are for me. It's just basically people come on, they can chat, they can talk to me, they can talk to someone else. You can talk to a Richard Sheep, he loves that. He'll bring them there, and he usually doesn't, he hides them, I've noticed, just in case we ask inappropriate questions. I'm going to get a reaction soon. No. If I'm thinking right, possibly no. I did some sort of swab test quite a while ago. I was told to go and get it done and not come to work. Yes, but that was a long time ago. Nothing recent in that regard, and definitely have not had a pleasant personal session with Jabba the Hutt. Yes, keeping Jabba away. For someone already following a well-rounded carnivorous diet, would you have any specific tips for increasing brain performance and mental acuity? I can tell you one thing. I usually take about 3 grams of taurine, and I've noticed it really helps me, both calming me down, and also I tend to have far better focus. I used to be a very erratic person as a younger person. It probably had a lot to do with the other sort of stuff as well that I was doing and all that. But I think it's not only that. I think there are things in your life you can do, like mindful thinking, concentrating, um, some of the basic yoga, breathing techniques and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of things of calming one down and focusing, because sometimes when you're in the weeds, you can be overwhelmed with too many thoughts. Get off my goat. We've got a bit of competition there. Yeah, so we tend to focus too much on the diet. And I actually talked a bit about some. I won't go into it. You'll have to turn up to the Zoom sessions to hear some of that sort of stuff in terms of quantum biological effects and human sort of mental focusing and stuff like that. Some of the experiments and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting. So yes, I think that look for the limited pill, looking for microdosing, albeit, but not diet related. Nootropic have been a disappointment. Most nootropics are a disappointment. Let me just put it like that, HD. Most nootropics are overrated, overstated, and the real profound influences that the brain gets from a species appropriate diet and the sun, and also this sort of earthing yourself, naturally connecting yourself to the planet and stuff like that, are far more powerful than any of these nootropics. And some of these nootropics can sometimes interact in certain ways that have a negative effect in other systems in the body. So I'm not as convinced as a lot of other people about supplementing nootropics. They sometimes can be a double-edged sword, and cause more problems than they're actually worth. Sometimes strategically, if somebody's got like schizophrenia, bipolar, or many other things, some nootropics can have at a certain dose a certain effect to normalize certain things. A bit like, boron in high dose and then bringing it down to normalize certain hormones, or taking very high levels of, choline to methylate away estrogen, xenoestrogens. Things have their place when it comes to certain things, but just generally taking something every day, I'm a bit, I don't think ancestrally we ever did that. And it's more to reset things, rebalance things, than basically doing it as a, yeah. I find that most people, they do certain nootropics for some time and they end up causing themselves other problems and really getting into, so I don't usually recommend that sort of stuff. It's not the natural way of actually living, you know. Yeah, there are other ways of basically biohacking a carnivore diet. I mean, some of the stuff that I talk about, whether it's metabolic water, this is real stuff, because if you've got still a lot of deuterium in the system, you can clean it out and really ramp up the actual. I would rather basically bring down the deuterium levels that you may have accumulated in the past and really ramping up and improving cellular energy production. Get out in the sun and get that extra, through cytochrome C, that extra energy into your mitochondria from the sun. Those are way superior biohacks in terms of, getting energy and really strengthening the body, earthing the body, doing those sort of things, mindful, sort of things, and things that calm and focus the mind with yoga type activities. Though I find those, being in nature sometimes on your own and sort of making that connection and being able to pick up and sense things around you can have a profound effect in calming and sort of teaching your mind to focus. There are so many other things just beyond the diet that can be very powerful things. So, don't look for the magic pill, so to speak. That's an option. Cold bath. Yeah, it's trying to keep also the the, the water consumption to a certain level. And if you can get that sort of Evian type water, it's a bit better. It's lower in deuterium, but we need to try and maximize hydration from fat as well. So always remember that. Yeah, they do. I've heard about some disaster stories with some bodybuilders, taking some of that sort of stuff, and I'm going, yeah, give them a miss. Let's put it that way. They're a hit and miss in some regards. The Zoom link, it's all over that session. Um, mm, mm, mm. I'll just bring this up just in case people are having any sort of difficulties. So let me, oops. Better do the sharing. Luke, I did send you a link as well, so check your emails. So, just turn that off for a sec. Okay. So he presents much better. Brushed his hair and everything. Roy really looks good, doesn't he? Looks smart. So the first link there is to find your time zone. So when you go to that zone, you can see the Zoom meeting, the event. Obviously that event passed. It's an old event. So I can set up an event. This allows me to set up an event. And as you can see, all the different parts of the world, when it's the start time and the finish time, minus, because they don't give you a 24-hour thing. So so you can actually see that the start time in in Dubai was Friday, 5 p.m. In Rome, it was Friday, 2 p.m. In Quebec, it was 8 a.m. on Friday morning. In Dallas, it was Friday. So that was the start point, 7 a.m. in the morning on Friday. And then as you can see, for Sydney, it was midnight, Saturday midnight, like it was in Hobart, because it doesn't have Hobart. So, so there you go. You can actually find wherever you are on the planet. You know, if you're in Tokyo, it was 2 hours earlier, in 10 p.m. Friday night. So that's the whole reason for that link. So you can actually look up your location on the planet, Rio de Janeiro. So basically, early in the morning on Friday. So wherever you are on the planet, and it just come on and stuff like that, is the whole idea of that sort of thing. And then below that, you go show more, and there is the Zoom meeting and the information. And so you click this, join the Zoom meeting, you click that, and it will pop up the connection. So obviously this is to launch the meeting because I'm the host. It's slightly different, but once you get here, you can just click on the link and basically enter the actual Zoom meeting in that regard. So it's not complicated. All the stuff is there. The first one is the time. So, your time zone, when it actually starts and when it finishes, minus 5 minutes, because they don't allow you to, they don't have like a 24, it's all 5 minutes, right up to 55 minutes and all that. It's really weird. I don't know why they don't have a 24-hour thing. So anyway, it's just the way it is. And, it's all in the description. That's how I put in the description. So I'll always be using my time. So it's Australian Eastern Standard Time, daylight savings, and that is the time. And then everybody's time is, find your time zone starts here. So just to zoom in. So everybody can see it. Oops, maybe I've gone a bit too far in, but it's quite obvious. Find your time zone starts here, that link, which is that one there, of all the different areas. Then you've got below that, the Zoom meeting information, the invitation link. So, which is all, those other ones are basically for, for support and all that. But this is the one that you actually use, and it's got all the information embedded into it. You may manually, sometimes, I don't know for what reason, some people have to manually put in their passcode, but generally speaking, it's embedded and it shouldn't actually require, should be able to go in there. So, yeah, it's not complicated in that regard. And you could probably Google how to join a Zoom meeting, where some people will show you exactly how to join. I may actually look up a video and actually put a link there and actually make it so easy for people to understand how to, it's not complicated, guys. It's quite easy. And I mean, most people nowadays should be knowledgeable about how to get into Zoom or Teams meetings or stuff like that, or Skype or whatever, because it's so ubiquitous. Many people do it in that regard. Yes. So anyway, so that's pretty much it, Jonathan, how to go about it. It's not, the information's all there. The links are all there to be able to determine your time zone, when it starts and when it more or less finishes, minus 5 minutes. But it always goes over. It's a Harry Serpanos Zoom meeting. It's always going to go over like his live streams. So you just have to accept that we still may be on, even if it's past the end time, so it's just normal. Yes, some people will use other colorful names, but for Harry, it's just normal in that regard. Oops. Why is it doing that? Yeah, just, oh, damn. I have to change my, rezoom out. Okay, zoom back. Okay, that looks better. Okay. Yes. So, oh, thanks, Lukey. Thumbs up. Yes, yes, definitely give it the thumbs up. I was looking at the Russian neuropeptides actually. Yep. Yeah. It depends on the dose. It depends on what they're actually, yeah. Yep. Some people also have as well. Yep. Yeah, it's probably overrated. At the end of the day, all amino acids will break down into, um, you know, all proteins will break, to basic amino acids, and then the body will use them in different ways. So, at the end of the day, you need sufficient leucine in the mix, and in that regard. The requirements, when you do a fast, I find that things like collagens, or gelatin, things like that of that sort, are probably useful after a fast, because you tend to require the amino acids that are sort of related to sort of rebuilding guts and those sort of things. The requirement goes up slightly, and so that sort of amino profile. But I actually prefer sticking to just a real food nowadays, and the reason for that is because of the utilization principle. Gelatin and collagen tend to have very low utilization, so when you take the stuff in, if you don't have enough of the other essential amino acids, you tend to not utilize as much and all that. And so it can be a bit of a waste of money. At the end of the day, I just let the body work out what it needs and what it building block. Give it enough protein, and it will build and construct the enzymes and the protein structures that are required. So it's more in that regard. And I think, yeah, I think we tend to look. I used to buy them as well, but I don't anymore. I think they're a waste of money, personally speaking. More about peptides and other things. Yes. Look, I probably do want to make a video on some of these sort of things, and some of the things that they claim, and some of the things that may help a bit in some areas, and other things that are sort of, let's say, wild claims that aren't supported by good research. So, and sometimes because they haven't been controlled studies, proper controlled studies, it could also be the placebo effect for some of those people that are having N of one experiences. So, mm, we need research when it comes to that to be able to definitively be certain that something is actually having a physiological effect. Um, what do you think about of magnesium supplementation? Waste of money, waste of time. Yeah, as if our ancestors required magnesium supplements. Stop overhydrating, over drinking water, and flushing out your electrolytes, I say to people. And make sure you get enough meat or taurine, which is an osmolyte, which regulates all the intra and extracellular fluids and regulates the actual electrolytes. If you got enough taurine, you're not going to have a magnesium deficiency, and that's eating enough meat. That's why people on a keto diet, on a low meat keto diet, usually have a lot of these electrolyte imbalances, not enough taurine. Especially more sort of lower insulin state, you need taurine to regulate those fluids much better, because it's an osmolyte, so it deals with the electrolytes, as well, many other things, but also that actual aspect. It's the reason when people up their level of meat consumption, they notice a lot of their so-called electrolyte issues go away. Surprise, surprise. And if you take a look at those videos, I've already made videos on potassium and magnesium excretion rates. you will always, if you eat good enough amounts of animal foods, you will always get more magnesium and potassium than you lose, you excrete naturally. Obviously, if you're sweating a lot, you may excrete a bit more, but not a hell of a lot more. And you're always going to get more as long as you're getting enough taurine in the system to regulate, and you've actually not overhydrating and upregulated slightly your antidiuretic hormones. You're not going to have any of these issues whatsoever. The manifestations of just too much excessive water consumption and flushing out electrolytes, and not getting enough meat for the taurine to regulate those fluids and those minerals, those intra and extracellular fluids. When I say extracellular, bloodstream, intracellular cells, to clarify that quite clearly. And that's what taurine does. That's another reason why it also lowers blood pressure, because it regulates those things in such a way that basically you no longer have these sort of imbalances. So, and once these things are much more regulated in those fluid types, usually blood pressure goes down as well. So, really important. How are you, Loki?
I'm doing fine, Harry. I'm back to my parents' home temporarily. So, yeah, a bit of a messy setup, but everything's fine.
Back with mummy. She must be happy.
Yes, she actually is quite happy. My dad is as well, and I have to say things are far different now, and they're treating me in a much more like independent manner. I
Mature.
even,
You're an
yeah,
adult.
and it's like a more equal relationship. I even have my own fridge separately for my own
Yep.
foods and everything. I'm like,
Yep.
what?
Yeah. Oh, look. Over time, you will end up you end up developing friendships with your parents, and it's the same thing I sort of learnt as I transitioned from being considered a child to being considered an adult. Over time, dad became my friend as well, not just a dad. So it's strange how that happens. You don't even realize it, but it does happen. It will happen over time. Your relationship will grow in different ways. That's as long as you work on it. Both have to work on it to maintain it, like any relationship, So
Sure.
it goes both ways in that regard. Yeah, and what you said here about deficiencies, yeah, exactly. We use stuff for deficiencies. If we're supplementing, I supplemented it as well, and sometimes I do recommend sort of mineral supplements. But that's when people are coming into the carnivore diet. They've still got deficiencies, they've still got issues that they're dealing with. Yep, but yeah, we don't want to be going continuously, because you don't need them. Once things start regulating themselves properly, the body's designed to be able to do that. It's been doing it for thousands of years. I mean, these things should be interventions short term, like I do the short term interventions with B vitamins or certain types of other supplements like boron or whatever. They have their place to regulate things, to improve things, to normalize things. And that's the word, normalize things back to normal physiological states. And then it's really just the lifestyle and food to maintain those things. Stefan, good to see you, mate. Yeah, fair enough, mate. Yeah, I'm sort of still waiting for the dawn effect to kick in, because I got up about now it's about half an hour ago, but it was basically I only slept for about 6.5 hours. We had a long 27.5 hour Zoom session. I was coming in and out of that different times, but yeah, sort of. I'm one for long sessions of doing a lot of things. I wonder where I get all the energy sometimes, but anyway, weird. But thanks for being here, mate. Take care. Good to see you. Keep up the good work as well. Yeah, it was good seeing you. I'm chatting with Bart as well. Send me a link. Send me an email and get you on my live stream if you want to. So the Eurasian one in the evening, the one that I've got in the evening, you'll be up by then for that one. You'll be getting up it'll be early in the morning for you. So if you want to come on, let me know. Take care, mate. And yep, more on that sort of stuff that we've already seen. If you feel weaker if you use too much, that's probably more of a sort of an electrolyte balance that can sometimes be, caused, because a lot of these things are used as cofactors. So that's why you say try and get it from food. Use them as short-term interventions and then drop them. And, and the more taurine, which is whether you supplement a bit or you get it in food by eating more animal foods, it has that sort of osmotic effect. And you can actually take a look back at the old, guys that used to do steak and eggs, and they used to eat shitloads of steak and eggs. You never heard them talking about electrolytes, did you? It was only when the guys started using a lot of the powders and stuff like that they started talking about electrolytes when they weren't eating real food. That's when they were actually, because they weren't getting enough of the mineral supplements, the stuff that's in the animal food, and they had to supplement at that time because they were using so many powders that, those biological processes in terms of incorporating those amino acids requires a lot of cofactors in those enzymes, and they tend to be magnesium, which is part of energy production as well, potassium and all these other things. So it's not accidental why, out of the one powder supplement came other supplements like mineral supplements over time. And I'm not against them. They do have their place for certain people at certain times and stuff like that. But you don't need to constantly take them, especially when you get enough of real food. The body tends to find its sort of homeostatic state and start working properly. Yeah. I'm getting a lot of, I can't hear you, Luke. You're getting a lot of noise feedback at the moment. So, yeah, you know what it is. You'll sort it. I'll let you sort it. 17 hour, they locked down those who did not have a close and personal session with Jabba the Hutt. Fair enough. Harder. Yeah, look, it's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, basically, if you don't have a close and personal relation with Jabba the Hutt, you're not his friend. You deserve to be incarcerated, Scotty. Yes, I know. I'm waiting for them to send me my official anti-Jabba the Hutt, a bit like the Star of David, the yellow sort of anti-Jabba the Hutt sort of emblem for me to wear officially when I move around. So the other citizens can actually look at me, point at me, laugh at me, and actually tell me what a bad person I am. Yes, I'm waiting for that as well, Scotty. Is a concern for meat that is blade tenderized. I cook my steaks medium, and I've heard that tenderizing pushes the outer bacteria into the middle, and it's not killed off by normal cooking. Look, I've heard of that, but it really depends. It could potentially, but if you're cooking at medium, unlikely. Just the sheer temperature will even if somebody's doing it medium, like rare, if they basically like do it in very high heat on both sides, even if they do that, that temperature that's going to come through will do the job. technically. And a lot of those bacteria, remember, are acid-loving bacteria. So they're not actually that harmful. They're quite beneficial, quite a few of them, So, yeah, I wouldn't get too wound up in that regard. But if you're concerned, you're doing it at medium, yep, fine, I think the intensity of the temperature will do far more in dealing with that issue. And so you could actually even have it less than medium and still not have that problem because of the intensity of the temperature. It's actually cooking it doing something like that and then cooking at a low temperature slowly, and that could potentially, maybe some could survive, maybe, but even then, the whole purpose of our stomach is to be very highly acidic, and the high acidity, we used to eat putrefied meat, that we were scavengers. As long as the stomach is working properly, Bruce, you've got very low stomach acidity, it should deal with that problem. I'm not that concerned. I don't know what your stomach status is, but, I always say to people, okay, you're still struggling a bit, take a bit of extra taurine because it does help with the acidification of the stomach and improving that. It sort of pushes it along in that regard, a bit extra salt, so that could sort of help as well. So there's a few things like that you can do, but it depends on where your sort of gastric system is sort of at what state it is, pretty much. Nah, it's still pretty bad. It was fine before. What did you change? Yeah, there's a lot of like interference behind it, sort of. So it's like there's some sort of. Do you have anything close by to any of those the electrical that's causing interference? Just try it again. Yeah.
Speakers.
Yeah, that's still doing it. I don't know what it is. You'll have to try and work that one out. I found out via MRI that I have a spinal fracture acquired from rugby injury, age 14. Any advice regarding surgery choices, recovery, and after that? When it comes to surgical stuff, when it comes to the spine and all that, I'm as ignorant as most GPs are and most people. I would basically consider somebody like Paul Mason to getting on one of his blogs, or getting who could probably be somebody that would give you good advice on that. Do not get advice from people on YouTube, please, on social media. When it comes to this sort of stuff, you need somebody who's in our community, but also really wise up about some of the surgical techniques, new approaches, Jonathan, and stuff like that. When it comes to spine, the actual spine itself, because it doesn't, the amount of blood vessels in those sort of areas and getting enough supply isn't as good as other tissue, and it heals much slower, way slower. Taurine would be a good thing in your diet to have, because taurine also can have an effect on like stem cell activation and stuff like that as well. So it has a benefit there. That stuff has endless. Sulfonation as well is really good, which taurine adds to that as well. But when it comes to anything like in terms of surgical choices, recovery, and stuff like that, do seek out professional medical advice. Do not seek out advice from people on YouTube, and try and find not the regular doctors. We're talking about people like in our community, carnivore type community, like people like Paul Mason and people like that. They would more than likely advise you much better. And you may not, it may not be as big an issue, and you may be able to live with it for, without really complicating your life anymore, because surgery comes with a lot of risk as well. And if it's not a real big problem, and it's just, yes, it's a fracture, but it's not something that is debilitating in any regard and all that, sometimes things can be made worse. So it's a very hard one. I can't advise on stuff like that. You really have to, and at the end of the day, you have to live with the choices you make as well, because it's your body, So do not seek advice from other people. Seek information, assess your best options, and then go with what you think is the best option for you. I can't tell you how to live your life or what interventions to make. I can provide you the science. I can provide you my ideas. I can tell you what I'm doing. And if you want to try something, but when it comes to this sort of stuff, you really need to do your research and really need to contact people that know their shit and all that. I'm not a spinal surgical professional. So while I may know certain things that help, and for animal foods and certain sulfurs play very important roles, because the keratin, the binding of collagen, which is most of the muscle skeletal, the skeletal structure is made of collagen. It's mineralized collagen. To a large extent, there are a lot of different, taurine plays a big role. MSM can be of help as well for that sort of binding of keratin. But spinal turnover is very slow. And because it's very slow, it's really hard to repair such tissue with dietary, lifestyle type things. That's why really important to maintain good muscle skeletal structures to prevent these things from happening. Unfortunately, we're not on an ancestral diet when these things happen, and then when we get on an ancestral diet, we sort of start improving, but it's a very slow process. And once you're an adult, it's much harder to do remodeling in that part of the body. So it's much slower, and the older you get, it's even slower. The turnover of tissue within the spine is really damn slow. And then there's also potential where some of those fracture lines, there can be basically like oxalate in those and aggravating those areas. That's another issue, and an area that is not very well understood by the MDs, by the medical establishment, in that regard. I've shown when I did that oxalate. Remember the video that I did about oxalates, and I showed the oxalate crystals inside the bone.
Yep.
That's another problem, and that can actually also generate microfractures in different skeletal areas of the body. And that's a real hard thing to sort of try and, with a normal cellular turnover, try and clear out some of that sort of stuff there. And you've got the debris that also is generated by those microfractures as well, that the body needs to go in there and sort of clear out with, so you'll have localized inflammation and macrophage and stuff like that, and try to clearing stuff out. So there's all these things happening at the same time, and it can be, it's a complex thing to try and see. The reason why I always like taurine is because it helps with some of this stuff. Plus, it also has an antioxidant effect as well. But it's a difficult one, the damn spine. I've had other people that have approached me that have got really even way more severe things, and I've known people trying carnivore diet, like doing like a decade, and only towards the end of that decade starting to realize some improvements. So it's a long drawn out thing because of the very slow turnover and all that, and also the amount of oxalate in the actual spine, in the actual bone structures of the body, whatever they are, including the spine. Out of the spine, they actually are even slower to get out. I think the medical establishment really have to look at this oxalate problem in spinal sort of tissue and work out some new way of trying to draw it out or whatever, and trying to heal. I don't know whether it's a stem cell type approach or it's an area where we are lacking in good research. We are lacking in good medical techniques and approaches to this. We're still, just drill things and bind and tighten things together with metal things, and it's still very much primitive and arcane the way we respond to spinal injuries and spinal issues currently. There hasn't been real much innovation beyond the standard stuff and just improving on the standard stuff. So it doesn't affect as much, create stability, but it still allows you to move much better, still maintain better flexibility to some extent. So they're trying to improve some of the metal components and the way they're actually modeled to reduce some of the stiffness and other issues. But it's really a field where, let's say, we definitely need more, thinkers that can go in there and rethink how to do some of this sort of stuff. So, I have my, So, do more of your research, mate. Do more of your research. Look into some approaches, both with stem cell type activators and also with sulfur. I would also consider more grounding for you as well, to get more of the negative ions from Earth to sort of help with that, with stabilizing some of that tissue. I don't know Jonathan, what your past diet was. If it had a lot of plant foods, there may be a lot of oxalate potentially in that tissue as well, aggravating and causing issues. So it's pretty much a hard one. You could only wish trouble. Yes. Depends on who's kidnapping and what they're doing to me. It could be exciting. I'll leave it at that without saying too much.
By the way, Harry, is it better now?
Yeah, it's better. It's better now. Yeah, it's better.
All right.
Way better.
So earlier, I just wanted to ask you, what do you think about the idea that chocolate cravings can be influenced by magnesium deficiencies? I hear that thrown around a lot.
There are anecdotes, but we've got zero research. I know people do use, I've heard a number of people in the low carb and keto community say that is the case. But I mean, I've had in the past like cravings myself, and then had a nice big juicy steak, and that craving went away completely.
Yeah.
It could be the magnesium in the meat. But then again, it may just be, that my body wants nutrients. And so, things that I like ice cream or chocolate is things that I crave at that moment. And I've noticed that, it's either chocolate or ice cream. I don't think ice cream has a lot of magnesium. So in that regard, and I'll tend to basically favor ice cream over chocolate. So I sort of doubt that it's a magnesium effect, but a lot of N of 1 type things or things that sort of people discuss, there is no evidence, there's no science, there's no experimental. It's just basically it and all that. And I say to people, just have a steak. Don't have a chocolate. Have a steak. You'll get this. You'll get magnesium from the steak. So and it'll probably do you a whole lot of other benefits in a whole lot of other tissues that probably need that. Those are extra amino acids to do more stuff in the body.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with you, and also I like just talking about personal experience. I really didn't care that much for chocolate, even in my previous diet. I had some once in a while, but I even did a period like over a year without it. And because I just wanted to see if it was related to acne or something. But so it wasn't easy for me to give up. But when I started, I really had like bad cravings every 2 weeks or something. But now they're just gone. I don't really think about chocolate anymore. Might think about ice cream sometimes, but not really chocolate.
Yeah. That's I'm very much the same. I'll think about ice cream, but I won't think about chocolate. So definitely not a magnesium deficiency. I just think that I used to get those sort of cravings when it came to chocolate, and it wasn't basically the dark chocolate, it was the milky chocolate and stuff like that again. So they don't have a lot of magnesium, I can tell you. They're more sugary. So yeah, if there was anything, it wasn't a magnesium sort of craving, it was a sugar craving. So yes.
Possibly.
Yeah. I like how people sort of, oh, it must be a magnesium craving. I need that. That extra milk chocolate. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh god, not really the case.
Zoom session is a coffee shop. Yeah, sort of. Without the coffee. Yes. Now he's making claims on goats as well, Richard. Yeah, we won't get into that. Richard, yes. I probably would have failed it multiple times. Let me move on before I say too much and get myself into trouble. Yeah, exactly, Richard. Yeah. You definitely would fail. I'd fail most of the times, but you'd definitely fail. I thought it was actually some new test that they had actually come out with. So I'm going, oh, well, I haven't really done it. Thanks for explaining. Yes, it all is in the details to basically, for older folk like me that are still waking up to sort of work out what people are saying. Yes. Yes. You're excused. Well, alcohol, nicotine, and cannabis are more of a nootropic than junk peddled out there. Yeah, they sort of are in a sense that, yeah, they definitely are more nootropic in that regard. Definitely, they have a real direct, with the cannabinoid, receptors and all that. They have a really direct effect. Yes, well said. Oh, definitely. Why not? Why not? Yes, he likes to shave when he's playful. Let's leave it at that. I mean the sheep. It's sort of good animal husbandry.
Sure, Harry.
Don't get Harry started. Exactly. He knows me too well. Oh yes, exactly. We need definitely some likes. Yes, exactly. Hit the like button, or if you're a Vagoon, hit the dislike. I'm equally will accept anything thrown at me. It all helps with the censorship AI on this platform. Yeah, it's becoming very, very weird. My folk have the camels if we need them. We know his desire alpacas, llamas, and camels, the whole hump. Yes, very much so. It's not the deuterium side, it's definitely the hump. Ah, yes. In what regard, Robert? By the way, I'm a meat eater, guys. Did I tell you I eat meat? Yes, there you have. I'm becoming a vegan in that sense. You're an uber meat eater. That is what Robert means. He's like the vegans who are uber plant eaters. Robert's a uber. He won't even allow a speck of plant material to pass his lips. Yes, why not? Why not? I hope you have a lot of vegan friends as well.
Yeah, it's hard to keep those friendships for long.
Oh yes, it's nothing like telling you these great friends, because they usually tell you, so you might as well tell them in reverse, just to exactly. I mean, it's just clarification in that regard. Oh, there probably should be. We've all got it. I actually picked up that from someone else. Sometimes it's hard to get rid of certain things you pick up with certain people you associate that use these words constantly. Yes, what do they call it? The Pavlovian effect or whatever. I feel like a dog with a probe. Yeah, well, we won't go into details where it is, up which orifice. But it's not a vegan diet; it's a meat one. Exactly. Oh, definitely. If you're eating plenty of meat, you're definitely having enough. You're lathering in it. You're swimming in it. Ah, yes, Lord Lukey. Yes. So he needs to get his beauty sleep. Trying to keep up with the old geezer here. I need to try and prioritize some sleep this week. I can tell you after tonight's live stream, I'm going to have I'm not even going to put the alarm clock on. I'm just going to have a long sleep session. I need it. Probably 3 days of just long sleep session to get myself. I've been, erratically running around like a mad dog trying to sort things out and do this and do that. And these long sessions as well. So like everybody relaxes on the weekends. No, I don't. Get up, do this, then run off, do other things with socializing, then come back, do other things, and then it's never ending. Like I've only got myself to blame. That's the thing. Shell, good to see you. We missed you, or some people did. I was hoping you would turn up. It's the only reason I jumped on it in the early session, but I found Angela from Ireland there, so ended up chatting with her for a while. And we were basically talking about, the sort of what's happening in Ireland and all that with the jabber nonsense and stuff like that. And she was, struggling with, her neighbours and stuff like that. I think it's really important for all of us to remind ourselves that I saw that trouble. Lack of sleep makes Harry naughty. You haven't seen naughty. You haven't seen real naughtiness from Harry. So let's just shelve that for a while and move on the other matter. And I was, chatting with her, and she was basically how really weird people look at her and stuff like that. People's behaviors have really become weird in this Jabba the Hutt era that we're in. People are finding it difficult to basically communicate with other people or talk or freely talk. It really feels like experiences I've had in the past going to countries where they had totalitarian regimes, and I could see interacting with the people, they felt uncomfortable to discuss things. They were evasive in discussing things or all that, or gave you a real, we don't want to talk this sort of stuff, sort of look and all that. Or that, you are talking wrong stuff, especially if they were, very much close to the establishment thinking. That is the sign of totalitarianism. That is the sign of a population that has been, to some extent, accepting of mandate type behaviors and rules and regulations, and not speaking up and speaking their mind. People no longer speak their mind in a comfortable way like they used to. That is totalitarianism, guys. It may be a light form of it, but, even Adolf Hitler was voted in, but it still was totalitarian, authoritarian, the regime eventually, and then totalitarian from authoritarian. So those are the signs, and when we're noticing them worldwide, even in so-called democracies, people are uncomfortable. People seem to be feeling they're shunned and stuff like that. And I say to people, stop being fearful, be angry. They are in the wrong, not us. But be tactful as well. Don't be stupid about it. Pick your arguments, pick your time, because it is a dangerous time, especially if people have got mortgages, they've got families to support and stuff like that. Some people can be very nasty and destroy people's livelihood and, destitute them potentially. So I don't blame the victim of this tyranny that people are feeling, or where they're feeling, this oppressive sort of discrimination that they're feeling. But don't let it get you down, guys. Don't get angry about it, and find other like-minded people and find methods of basically trying to. I think when you explain this to other people and say, well, this is the way I feel, this is the way people feel, they don't feel comfortable, people will start clicking. You don't have to talk about Jabba the Hutt issues. Just talk about how you feel and how the world around us is becoming less free, less able, where people can express themselves, even if they're talking stupid things. I would defend people's rights to even talk idiotic things. I don't even want a vegan censored on YouTube. Just because they're a vegan, I disagree with them. I don't want anybody to be censored. It's not basically because, sort of authoritarianism is basically when you're forced to basically agree with everyone or shut the fuck up type way, be silenced. I don't believe anybody should be silenced. And when in a society people feel that they have to be silenced or feel uncomfortable, unease, or scared of losing their livelihood, of losing their friends, or being sidelined or being turned into a pariah, or potentially having like the Star of David like they had in Nazi Germany, and being definitely marginalized as a minority in that, discriminated heavily and all that. That's not a good thing for any society, free society. That's the downfall of free societies. And I think when you express it in this way and stop talking about the Jabba the Hutt issue, but talking about this way, people start realizing there's something wrong with our society. This isn't right, So, I mean, and things like, I use examples like, how, a number of religious people can go and have a medical procedure and say, I don't want this thing to happen. And if they don't give authorization to the doctor, like the Jehovah Witnesses say, I don't want blood. The doctor will try and use any intervention to try and save them, other than giving them direct blood. And if they fail, they die. That was that person's choice. They went and saw their maker without, but we don't discriminate against those people. We respect their religious rights. We may disagree on or think that they are, wrong, but there's a difference between thinking wrong and different between suppressing and censoring that person's right to express those feelings, or be able to ask for that without being discriminated or ignored, and in their treatment. And that's really important. That's part of a free society. And if you don't have that, and I use those things as an example rather than getting into the weeds about the efficacy, whether it's a good idea or not to have a relationship with Jabba the Hutt, it's more to talk about these issues, because people are going to turn around and say, yeah, there's something wrong with our society. We've gone too far. This is just where we've gone into crazy sort of territory and really dangerous sort of territory. We need to basically get that out, because you're not going to create. We need to create a moderate movement, not of extremists, but anti-jabber type people, because I disagree with a lot of some of the stuff that they talk about. But we need to make a more wider movement of people that basically are, concerned about freedom, democracy, and the right of even people to say disagreeable things. That's the whole thing. You don't have to agree with everything. I mean, I wouldn't agree with some of the stuff that some of those people talk about, the MMR jabber type things. I disagree with them completely on that issue, because there's been experiments now to show that is not an issue whatsoever. It's just an association, nothing else. Like the Japanese stuff that they did in Osaka, Japan for 2 years. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a non-issue. But some of these people are still using that nonsense because they're not informing themselves. They got into their little echo chamber and they just stayed there and don't really open their. But that's those people. I don't have to disagree with them. But on the other parts about freedom and choices and stuff like that, I completely agree with them and support them and back them 100% on those issues. Against tyranny. That is the big problem. They're using these things to divide us and then basically to impose very restrictive things. It's a problem. It's a problem we have to sort of fight back, but in a smart way. And we need to basically start talking about these issues with our friends and neighbors and family and all that, rather than the Jabber stuff, which they want to basically divide. Either you're for Jabber the Hutt or you're against Jabber the Hutt. Stop having that conversation. Focus on the freedoms and all that, and the freedoms to choose the way you want to live your life and all that. And whether somebody's disagreeable or not is irrelevant. It's more, it's not basically either a popularity contest, and it's not basically whether people agree with each other and are good, compliant social citizens that get good social credits, because that's what it is. These people are classifying. It's no different than the Chinese social credit system. We are being classified as good or bad citizens. That's wrong. You may disagree with my opinion on Jabber the Hutt, but at the end of the day, you can't classify me as a bad citizen just because I have a different opinion on this issue. That's the sort of conversation we have to be a bit more strategically smart, the conversations that we have with people, because once a lot of these people start thinking in terms of freedoms, democracies, government overreach and stuff like that, they will start bitching and moaning to the government that they've gone too far, to their local politicians and all that. That feeds back through the system. The thing that they fear the most, not getting elected the next time around. So yeah, we have to, and we've got the media, the social media censorship. We've got the mass media that are basically promoting a close and personal relationship with Jabber the Hutt, and Fox Media, all these media, CNN, all of them have banded together to promote. If you're not a friend of Jabber the Hutt, you're the enemy. Practically. So they're all singing the same tune, and we've got a lot of there's a lot of things that we have to fight against in that regard. So we have to pick our battles smart, in a smart way, and make it about the things that everything can agree with. People may not agree on whether you're in bed with Jabber the Hutt or not, but they definitely will agree on things like freedom, government overstepping the mark and overreach, suppression of civil liberties, human rights and stuff like that. They will agree with those things. And that's where our focus needs to be with people. Because if we don't have those conversations and we're just having the whether it's whether to be with Jabber or against Jabber, you end up with tribal warfare and you get nowhere. But on the other issues, we can agree. That's where I want to basically turn those people, So it's like initially a lot of people are against the Vietnam War. Sorry, very small people were against the Vietnam War. But once it was made quite clear about, the lies, the deceptions, the made up stuff, the misdirects, some of the actual violations of law and stuff like that. At that point, even the average middle class person started saying, well, hold on, the government's really not behaving correctly on this issue. So they may have not agreed with the radicals that may have, the people that were the more boisterous people, but eventually the large parts of the community realized there's something wrong with this picture, what we're doing here. And then you had these big numbers, and that's what we need to do. And it's not going to happen by arguing about when they're thinking about, granny dying or not. You're having that conversation. You're not going to win that conversation. Believe me, you will not win that conversation. You need to win the political conversation about freedom, liberty, and against tyranny and stuff like that, and sort of this level of sweeping authoritarianism that's actually happening in totalitarianism in our societies. Those things to be, because people could identify the unease about discussing things. And if you're, most people, when you say to them, you're feeling unease as well, aren't you, having a conversation with me, you don't feel as free to express yourself on these issues. Then it clicks in their head, yeah, fuck, I'm no longer living in the society that I actually believed in. They need to have that click moment in their brain. And that's when things start changing. They're going to go, look, I may disagree with these people, but government's overreached here. Then you've got them. You really have them at that point to make that difference. So people need to be smart. The type of campaigning that's done has to be smart, not just, don't run a campaign with a reptilian part of your brain, because you'll end up in tribal warfare. Run it with your frontal lobe. And then you can strategically outmaneuver your opponent. That's how warfare is actually won, both physical warfare and mental warfare. We need to be smart about it, the way we deal with our opponents. Yes, we need to bring down the empire and the forces supporting Jabba the Hutt. Apparently, peaceful protest is a global movement started. Sydney, yep. Yeah, it's good that it's growing. It is definitely good that it's growing. Yes, it needs to focus on the liberty side and the authoritarianism side, and yeah, not a problem. If Lukey sent something through, he'll put it up. If he receives it from you, Trouble. So if you send it to Lukey, then yep, I'll definitely put it up.
Yeah, I just put it up earlier.
Yep, fine. I'll let you sort that out. And then when you're ready, I'll be cryptic because, with the censors on the YouTubia. So we don't want to upset the AI. Yes. Skynet will basically come down crashing on Harry and may take Harry away this time for good. So we've got to be very careful in that regard. They can stand in my car, probably a little muddy too, though. You've been taking the sheep out to the park again. Bloody hell, Richard. Making a mess. Yes, he is. See the difference between when you fix your problem, you get your vitamin D levels right up to 80 nanograms per deciliter, and you bring down you fix your thyroid issue. Then it's not an issue actually making gains. Your body responds and starts building tissue because it's no longer in a deranged state. So, because Loki was doing a lot of exercise before and he just couldn't actually build any muscle. And then he fixed his thyroid, and then bang, he noticed big gains very quickly.
Night and day, because it's like in 8 months I had the same progress that took me 2.5 years before. So completely
Precisely.
different.
Ah, yes. Definitely, yes. He's moving his Death Star into orbit as we speak, yes.
I'm in the dining room actually, so it's weird.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Trouble. Yeah, the madness is spreading much faster than than even Jabba can keep up with it. With it, so yes, the propaganda is working. Basically, this is why I say we need to fight the propaganda. You know, it's a propaganda war, basically, for the hearts and mind of average people, because really that's where the battle is. It's between us and them for the average people. And it's not going to be won, as I said, by arguing stuff that the average people are going to say. They're going to always refer back to the expert and say the expert says such a thing. But if you move away from that and start talking about democracy, freedom of choice, and all these sort of things, and the underlying, how do you feel? Don't you feel uncomfortable in this sort of environment? Fearful about saying something that it may be taken the wrong way and all that. You don't feel at ease of expressing yourself like you did before. And most people they're feeling that. Even the people that are on the other side that are being manipulated and deceived and are basically have fallen for the propaganda, even they feel uncomfortable because they can't have the normal conversations they used to with other people that they know may be on the other side. And then at that point, there's a click in their head. They know there's something wrong with the system if I can't have that conversation. At that point, that there's a fear factor. And at that moment, they make that connection. And that's when they realize that things have just gone too far. And that's what we want to achieve in their minds, that things have gone too far. And this is just, a joke, gone way too far. John Kiefer has an interesting theory. The keto diet works because carbs are the driver of disease state, but keto doesn't repair them. So when people go off keto, they get worse. Look, it depends what you mean. Keto is a very open-ended thing. Keto can mean a very high-fat therapeutic type keto that you do for a very short amount of time. It can be a vegan style keto diet. Yes, they do exist. It can be a vegetarian style keto diet. It can be a meat heavy carnivore type, which is more species appropriate, which is a much lower grade ketogenic state, which I think is a much better one, because you're in that low grade. You're not going to basically be dumping electrolytes like mad as well. Constantly having to replace them, which is another issue, and you'll have basically better regulation of those electrolytes, as I talked about, the osmolyte issue effect that you get from eating more meat, from the taurine primarily. So it depends on what you're actually, while they have all ketogenic diets because they disengage the Randall cycle, they have benefits in a number of ways. But at the end of the day, there's one that is sustainable and species appropriate, and the others pretty much can be used sort of short term as fasting mimicking type diets, but they're not basically optimal for long term health and vitality and growth for normal functioning of day-to-day functioning of humans. So we've got to be very careful about those. And our ancestors never ate that way. They ate a meat heavy diet. They went, hunted, slaughtered, and ate. That's the normal physiological way of responding in the natural environment. So I think if it worked for the hundreds of thousands of years for them, yep.
Oh, Harry, speaking of which, I was just talking to my mom earlier today, and it's nice that she's making some changes to her diet recently, as I've talked in the past. But I think that she needs to be a bit more drastic, because she told me that in her latest blood exams, I think that her fasting glucose was borderline pre-diabetic. It was 107 or something. the units are different also.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm a little worried, but I'm not really sure how to help her at this point because she has already changed a lot, and like there are things that she's quite addicted to, so she won't it's very hard for her to give up the remaining stuff,
Look, it's sometimes transitional time, for the body to adapt. There may also be high mitochondrial damage from the past things that she did, and sometimes what happens is you tend to sort of run more high glycolytic sort of states as well. And that's a concern in itself as well. I had somebody else on the live stream saying the same thing. And I had a lady that I was dealing with that had very high mitochondrial damage and had the same issue, was running much higher glucose levels because of the high mitochondrial damage. That means, and she never had a lot of energy as well, even though she was eating a lot of meat and animal foods. She didn't really have that really high energy, and that really indicates mitochondrial damage. And in that case, I would consider like a stearic acid sort of supplement for reverse electron transport to try and encourage the body to biogenesis more mitochondria, new mitochondria. Because, well, look, you can do it with a bit of fasting, and you can, but if somebody's healing, they've still got a lot of way to go, and excessive fasting can also have its it's not as sustainable. We have to be realistic, where it's easy just to take a stearic acid. I'll shoot you through a link anyway. I was going to do a video. I haven't done it yet. It's another one of those bloody videos that I want to do. But it sort of can actually encourage the body to increase the reverse electron transport. The other thing is, I don't know whether, fisetin is an option as well to knock out all the senescent cells, because the more senescent cells you have, the more those excrete inflammatory cytokines, damaging more cells and exacerbating the how many healthy cells you have to do proper functioning and provide energy. So there's all that. Getting out in the sun and trying to tap in additional cytochrome C, additional energy as well is important. I don't know how much she can tolerate the sun at this stage, so that's another issue in itself. So there's let's say it takes time and you have to be patient with transitioning and healing, especially when you've been doing, how old is your mum? Approximately, you don't have to.
She's about 45.
Okay. So basically she's not a spring chicken, so to speak. She's not young, so basically she's probably had at least 30 years of some sort of derangement in her general diet from a teenager up until very recently.
And when she was younger, her family was much poorer. So there would be times where she would only eat, basically, she would do meals that were basically white rice, tomatoes, and pepinos. So
yeah. So you're looking at food, in particular, the sort of like tomatoes and all that are very high in things like deuterium as well, because it's a fruit actually. So concentrates deuterium. These are the sorts of things that tend to be that higher above the 155 parts per million in many cases, especially if they're very ripen. And I suspect most people in those days used to prefer things that were more ripe than, because they were seasonal. You pick them up and all that. So, yeah, there's all these sort of related issues. And so if you've got mitochondrial damage, I used to run higher blood sugars in the past. And I showed, like Ling, I always show with, even the dawn effect, between the low, the high fours or whatever, so she could, if she's here, she's not here anyway, but I used to just, I don't want to show her emails and because they're private, but she could confirm that if she turns up. I thought she would have turned up by now. Is she bloody in the stream? Is Hello Kitty here or not? No. Wonder what she's doing. Anyway, she may be just looking. If you're there, say something. Bloody hell. Anyway, and so mitochondrial damage can be that sort of effect. And I notice as I from my early days, 11 years ago until now, it's been sort of coming down. And that's as I've been biohacking and improving my mitochondrial efficiency and stuff like that. You're able to basically utilize better long chain fats then, and that makes a big difference. And so sometimes deuterium water to flush out and reduce the deuterium levels, better sleep, maybe a small period of time of a bit of melatonin, low doses, so you don't disrupt that sort of stuff for a period of time to repair some of that some of the mitochondria. So it's all these sort of things. Drop me an email and with a bit of background and a few things and symptoms and stuff like that, and then I'll shoot you through something a bit more comprehensive than just sort of general phrases that I'm doing. But yeah, a number of things can be. We are not ancestral. We have not lived ancestral. It's not like, as I always point the example with Mary Ruddock, and she had a lot of health problems, and then how she couldn't keep up with an 80-year-old running up a hill. There's a difference between being on an ancestral diet all your life and not being, and only being a couple of years, like a couple of years cleaning up your life. It's not the same. You will have a lot of damage. You'll have a lot of mitochondrial damage. These people just go like that because they're not doing any mitochondrial damage. They're on a low deuterium diet, like the camels. They're going like that, and then eventually they have what is called total body senescence. Because at that point, when they can't do any more cellular division, all their cells start going senescent, and they sort of die quite quickly, rapidly. It's the end of life. No more cell division. That's it. But this is what happens to us. Slow decline with a lot of suffering until dying. Again, because we've created a lot of senescence. Some of us even live long enough with a lot of senescence to cause cancer eventually and force those cells into cancerous states. But, that's what happens when you actually damage the mitochondria far too much, So, in that inner space, there's all these little like tubule type things where the proton gradient is built up and pushes, and you've got a number of these electron, the actual ATP synthase, a couple of them in there on both sides of the gradient. And so you've got all these sort of grooves where you've got all these sort of happening where the energy production, and you may, in that groove, you may damage one, you may not damage the other, and then eventually damage the other one. And the more of these you actually damage, eventually that mitochondria just starts producing less energy, and the mitochondria itself becomes senescent and can't really produce enough ATP synthase, enough energy. And the cell senses that. There's a signaling back and senses that and goes, we're not getting enough. So it starts elongating these long chain fats of 25 carbon around the DNA, and then starts using glycolytic pathways, sort of fermenting and using glucose and lactate, primarily lactate, to basically to use energy. Not that lactic acid or lactate, is a problem. It's just basically it's an easy energy to produce. One does not cause the other. You've fucked up your energy system. That's why the body's actually revert back to a primitive form of energy. Don't blame the energy like the reductionists do. We know some of the people that Bart's criticized. It's basically the, what you've done by, stuffing up your mitochondria with high deuterium foods. That's where the game is at the quantum biological level. You need to protect your mitochondria. You need to basically sort that out. Anyway, we'll move on. You mean a mad cow's disease? Yes, it's affecting everyone nowadays. You don't need to basically get the thing. It's just basically it's called the Jabba the Hutt madness. I improved on keto, but I got greater improvements on carnivore. Exactly, because it's more species appropriate. It's a more lower grade, swinging in and out of into a catabolic and anabolic state, which is actually a good thing. That's how the body's supposed to be. When you're not getting nutrients in, you're in a catabolic state and you're actually taking energy from your fat cells. When you're in an anabolic state, you're building both tissue and you're storing energy for when you're not eating. And that's why you shouldn't be eating every now and then. You should be eating when you feel hungry. When you're not feeling hungry, don't bloody eat, But make sure that you listen to your body's signaling when it, if you've got a lot of energy on board, most people can do with a bit not as fatty steak. They're fine. And it's actually a good thing because I'll build more tissue with a lot of the leucine in there. And they'll basically utilize their own fat as energy. Just always remember, if you've been on a kibble diet, and a lot of that is accumulated seed oil fat and other sources that are not, could be deleterious, I would say it's always a good idea when you're losing and using energy to be on a low dose vitamin E from Jarrow for at least 5 to 7 years to deal with stored PUFA in that. So keep that in mind. It depends where you are. I always throw that as a reminder because we do need to protect the mitochondria when that stuff comes out as well. And so you may also consider a bit also exogenous fat coming in as well. So to sort of dilute in that regard, or buying metabolic water for a period of time. Anyway, yes, there's plenty of Karens around. Yes, there's definitely plenty of mad Karens around. Yes, nowadays they're mushrooming all over the place. I think they're cloning. Jabba the Hutt is cloning mad Karens at the moment. Definitely is. He's Trouble. He's a very, very busy man. He's cloning like mad. These Karens, they're appearing everywhere. You can even order one online, I think. If you go to your correct provider, they'll send you an official AI Karen from the censorship board. There's plenty of them out there. Don't worry. Take your pick. Recently, we had new members invited to Bart's Discord that supposedly had suffered major side effects from Jabba the Hutt in his freezer form. Yes, it is. Yes, yes, the freezer form. Yes, yes, the freezer form is a very interesting one. Yes. Remember the I can't use the other word. The AI picks up on that, Lukey. It's the freezer form. It's the mon form for the other one.
That's perfect because
the astrology jab for the other one.
Yeah, perfect. It's funny because Freezer is a Dragon Ball villain, so it makes it even funnier.
Yes, but it's not a fizzy drink, so get that out of your head, you little kids out there. Yes, not the same thing. Do not allow Jabba the Hutt to deceive you, calling it a fizzy drink. Anyway, fizzy jab. But yes. Look, it is interesting. I mean, I found out Friday because it was my last working day yesterday. Before going on leave away for a month, away from all the damn madness that's enveloping the world at the moment. And exactly. So I actually asked about one guy there, Andrew, and I said to Simone, "Where's Andrew? I haven't seen him for ages. Is he on holidays?" And she goes, "No. He took he had a session with Jabba the first time and wasn't feeling really well and got a bit sick and was under the sun and took a bit of time off, and then had a second he went and visited Jabba the Hutt for a second time, and now he's in hospital. And he's really, really bloody sick, and they're scared that he may not make it. Now, this guy, Simone told me, because I was talking to her about trying to help improve her immune system and all that, and about T lymphocytes and all that, T cells. And she goes, oh, he had cancer a couple of years, which I didn't even know. God, he kept that, but she's pretty close to him. So she told me that what he had, and that he had cancer, and then basically he had really low T lymphocyte count. And really, if you take a look at that BMJ article that I talked about in that other video that I did, it's really your protection is T lymphocytes. Your warriors, those initial warriors, are there. And the stuff is, people are eating a kibble diet, so they're not getting enough taurine, and they're not getting enough vitamin D. They're not out in the sun. They're not getting the sun, salt, and meat effect lifestyle. And that is why they are far more vulnerable to attacks from Jabba the Hutt and the Empire. And that is part of the problem. This is the long Jabba the Hutt effects that we get. And these both from the real one and the make-believe one that Jabba the Hutt gives you. So in that regard, these long effects are similar, and it really has to do with clearing it out of your system. You really need your T cells to be functioning properly. I mean, I know that the article, the BMJ article, covered the vitamin D thing really well, but there is the angle with the taurine that people need to remember. Taurine does help as well. Beyond the stem cell activating part of the vitamin D helping there, and taurine also helps with stem cell as well. But it also helps with the antioxidants protecting the T cells from becoming senescent, because they can become senescent and stuff like that. And I've always said that if before you get exposure and all that, or that is always good to do like a 3-day fast, and then rebuild your basically new T cells with taurine and vitamin D, like a higher doses and all that. And that's the other reason, also using higher doses of vitamin D to support T cell response, and to also be able to get long-term, that memory effect that's sort of of the innate immunity, is also really important to support your T cells and your thymus, because that's where your T cells are stored. And guess what else actually meat, which is taurine in this case, actually prevents shrinkage. Like the left ventricle of your heart doesn't actually remodel, it also prevents what happens to older people when after 65, their ability to synthesize taurine from methionine and cysteine actually collapses, falls off the cliff. Their thymus starts shrinking. Their ability to have sufficient T cell to be able to fight off diseases, cancer, and all this decline, because they're not eating meat to get the taurine to protect that part of their organ.
It's like, this is so funny, because in medicine they say that as if it were an inevitable fate.
Bullshit. You don't see that in tribal people that are eating meat all the time. That is absolute fucking bullshit. Tell me a Maasai that basically has a shrunken thymus. It doesn't exist. It's a myth, But it's a paradox, apparently. Luke, it's a paradox. No, it's a meat paradox. And we know that it's a meat paradox that these cockwombles don't understand, or don't want to understand, because it goes against their narrative. Yes. Now you know why I sort of say sun, salt, and meat.
I'm not going to have a good time here by the end of the year, because at some point we're going to have a family meal and everything, and one of my uncles is going to be here, and he's a doctor, and some subject is going to come up, and I'm going to be like, well, that doesn't really work like that, and things will escalate from there. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a cousin who's a specialist doctor as well. I do have people in my family who are in the pharmaceutical industry as well, very high up in sort of, so I do have very good connections in that sort of, in the medical establishment in that regard, family-wise, first cousins we're talking about here. So yeah, so it's I know the industry. Let's put it that way in that regard, and even my farm, my cousin, who's a pharmacist, she even approached me about a few things and asked me, so she was interested in a few things. I think she's probably now on taurine and a few other things. So, even these people are not dumb, but they have to follow official lines or policies, or they've got really very little freedom movement. Even Paul Mason, he avoids these conversations because he could potentially lose his tenure at the Sydney University, and also lose his hospital residency. So I understand why these people are very, they've been silenced, basically. They've been silenced. That's authoritarianism, where they can't be openly, they can't speak out. Gary, who was on the Zoom stream, I think he's gone away, probably off to a bit of R&R. But he was on a bit earlier and just talking. He was on the live stream and he was telling me the same thing. He was basically being asked by other staff members what your status is, what this and what that. And he was feeling very uncomfortable in the medical facility that he operates in. So, so there's a lot of people that are really under a lot of pressure and are constantly being monitored and feel that their livelihood can be taken away from them. Their whole life they could be forced into destitution. If you're young, you've got a family and stuff like that, it's hard, bloody hard, so, it's an appalling situation that our society is in. Unfortunately, it is really appalling that we've got to this stage. This is why I say we need to basically point out these problems, because we can't, the other fighting over our views about, Mr. Jabba, the Hutt or whatever, isn't going to really cut it with a lot of these people. We need to basically get them on the other issues, really important. But going back to in that regard, so I don't know whether this guy is going to make it and come back, but it's really important to support. I say to people, it's really important. Look, we've got people that basically, like the nurse that had 2 sessions with Jabba the Hutt. She was in a close and personal relationship. Then it was nearly a marriage made in heaven for her. Well, definitely it was after the fact. She probably did end up in going in that direction. Yes, she's not with us anymore in that regard. So yes, it didn't really work for her. And a lot of people in that sort of environment have been brainwashed to thinking that animal foods are bad. And so her T lymphocytes would have been very piss poor. Her vitamin D levels will probably be on the very average, taking at most, they usually take about 1,000 IUs, which is just enough for rickets and a few things, but definitely will have an underlying deficiency. Most people do. So you've got a high senescence of your T cells, and you don't have as many, the senescent. You don't fast and anything like that because, they don't do that. They're having 6 meals a day, these sort of people. So, how is your body going to defend you? So this is why people are dying, people in the past, even older people, very robust, could take a lot of disease, but they're eating more meat. They're out in the sun. They had a very good, defense system to pounce on whatever was coming in. I mean, even Mary, remember she was talking about the young kids that were going to school, eating the kibble and the Cedos, and then they're coming back and they were more susceptible to pathogens in the environment, where the kids that were still with it in the tribal area weren't. That shows you the robustness. One, these kids are indoors most of the time, and because of dark skin, you have to be outdoors for many more hours. It's, half an hour, an hour is not going to cut it. You need to be out for 6 to 8 hours, depending on how dark your skin is. As a consequence of that, these kids will definitely be deficient compared to white kids that are in the playground. So that's the difference. those kids, if they're in the school in those, in Kenya, they should be on vitamin D tablets, or they need to rearrange the school so they're actually in an open environment, or so with no rooftop, so the sun can come through, and so they're, they need to do something different in that regard for those people. So they need to change how they're getting schooled. But on the other side, the food also played a role in compromising their immune system. And so when they went back, they were more, I always look at these things in a very nuanced way, as you know, Lukey. I always consider, there's that side, because always people are going to say, oh, it's this or that. No. Dark skin, 8 hours, that's one factor. Then you've got this, you have to point out these factors, because always people are going to come up with fucking excuses of why it's not this or not that. And I'm going, there's my fucking excuse, So, but when you look at it in those detailed ways, you realize why these kids become vulnerable. It was really good that, I need to get back to Mary and try and get her on as well, because I've just been a bit lazy myself getting my shit together. Basically, that's what I haven't contacted her. I haven't contacted a lot of people. I've just been a bit too caught up with too many other things. Now that I'm actually away from all the madness, I'm going to start doing some of this stuff. I will contact her next week and a few others and try and see whether, have a few different things, a bit of variety, spice of life, as they say, and do a few things of that sort. But yeah, that's really the situation. I mean, and it's going to be a hard slog. And, if you've got parents and stuff like that, it's like in nursing homes, I'd be definitely slipping them, some vitamin D and taurine, and some leucine supplements to them. And if they're on, like the low blood pressure meds and stuff like that, I'd try and actually work with a physician and try and bring them down as you slowly increase the dosage of taurine in their system, because they're just eating very poor protein stuff, and they need the leucine to get the even the poor quality protein into the system to try and maintain their muscle skeletal structures as much as possible, as is practical in that environment, but also to sort of protect them against pretty much a shrinking thymus. And that takes time to rebuild. That's the other damn problem. So the longer you've neglected that part, it's going to take. It's one of those organs that does take time to rebuild. And but I say to people, even a bit is better than nothing. So get onto it in that regard. So yeah. This is what, if I was Prime Minister of Australia, I'd be recommending vitamin D, taurine supplementation, these sort of things. I'd be recommending. I'd be legalizing the importation of ivermectin and all these sort of things, and have a very different approach. But unfortunately, I don't have that role. So yes.
Harry, but it seems that the only accepted solutions involve locking people up and having sessions with Java.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely it's crazy, the stuff out there. So yes. I have no idea what Laura's actually saying there. Yes. We know what you're alluding to. We won't spell it out. Good to have you here, Charles. Always a pleasure, mate. Have to go to work, but hi from Canada. Not a problem, mate. Take care. Oops. Nearly. What's this one? Don't talk to me unless you're a uber giga carnivore. Is this you made this up, didn't you?
It's based on an internet meme making the rounds wrong. There's like a guy.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh God.
he's like a
Okay.
really muscly guy, and he's
Okay.
getting
Okay.
Java, and it's like, don't
Okay.
talk to me unless you are Giga, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it. God, I must live a very sheltered life. Yeah. I thought Richard lived a sheltered life in New Zealand, but I must be, yeah, you know. It's all that animal husbandry we both are involved in. It just takes up too much of our time, doesn't it, Richard?
Oh, I can imagine.
Especially Richard. Oh, you know, my mind's, you know, in La La Land, and now and then, you know, it's, yes. Yes, it probably does. It's like alcohol. He becomes very funny, very cute, and let's say very witty. It's not always appreciated by everyone in that regard. It depends. Depends on the crowd. I've had basically friends where I've had them laughing with tears in their eyes, and we've had a few drinks and all that, and I've just been cracking certain jokes and certain innuendos and all that, and I've just had them just literally laughing. And I tell you, because I'm not going to the function next week, which is on the 15th, when yes, the requirements, if you haven't had a session with Jabba the Hutt, if you're not his friend, you're not invited to restaurants anymore, or to pubs and clubs and stuff like that. So I've been excluded. So, and actually a couple of people have said it's not going to be the same without you, Harry. They find me so exciting. So yes, so basically, I think some of them are going. I thought one person said, you know, I'm thinking of not going. It's going to be so boring. Well, it's a nice thing to, you know, the people really want you to be there.
You're the life of the party.
Yes, yes. Yes, they definitely reached the next level. You know, you guys have been missing. Some of you guys that don't turn up to the Zoom session, you don't know what you've been missing. We talk about all sorts of things, and we have a lot of fun in that regard. And you know, I can sometimes become even extra humorous. So
Yes.
in some regards, as Lukey knows as well. So I mean, yes, yes.
Can you believe it? It even gets to the extent that Harry teases me. This is absurd.
Exactly. I'll tease everyone, you know. Richard Sheep, you know, my personal goats. I'll tease everyone. Yes, yes, very naughty, aren't I? I'm sure, very naughty. Precisely, Scotty. Precisely. Good seeing you at the actual Zoom session. All that. Sorry about not covering all that. I you know, sort of neglected the chat thing because we talk, you know, talking stuff. I blame Paul, you know, from further south. Gotta blame someone. Yes, exactly. Very much. Don't censor the Vagoons. Where will we get our laughs exactly? I mean, Bart wouldn't have a channel without the Vagoons. I mean, I look forward to his basically humorous takedown of the Vagoons and some of the other idiots out there. Actually, I've come across another person. I need to send that to Bart. Maybe in the new year he can actually make a video on this guy as well. So he's sort of acting as he's an authority, and he's making some really Mickey Mouse mistakes. So I think Bart will like that one, taking that guy down. So yes. I won't mention names, but yes. So yeah, that's definitely true, Trouble. That's definitely bloody true. There are people who chose to be vegan. You're feeling bad about yourself. Thanks, thanks, Loki, for the laugh.
You're welcome.
Yes, very much. Yes, that's on there so people can see that link. Precisely. Very much so. Exactly. By Fizzy Jabber. Yes, definitely. Actually, they're actually now,
I'm sorry, I can't do this things.
Well, it gives you, the side effects are apparently mild, according to the official censor. But if you add a sort of more pronounced effect, it's your fault. Remember that. It's your fault.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, to be honest, I think people should understand that the other humans don't exist to satisfy their personal biosecurity needs. That's exactly right. Very well said. Very well said in that regard. Yes, it's like other people are not responsible for your financial security or many other things, Exactly. If you want to have a close and personal session with Jabba the Hutt and you believe that will protect you, well, since even people that have had Jabba the Hutt, like in Gibraltar, they are still basically having a close and personal with the sea friend. They're still having a close and personal relationship and picking him up and taking him for a ride in their body and handing him over to another person who's had a close and personal session with Jabba the Hutt. So what biosecurity, please tell me, what biosecurity are you being protected against? Just because I can transport him as well, like anyone else can as well, whether they've had or haven't had a close and personal relationship with Jabba the Hutt. What nonsense, but that's the narrative that was pushed very early, that everybody who's had a relationship with Jabba the Hutt will look after you and never allow you to get to become a carrier. Yeah, we saw how that played out. Now they're coming up with other nonsense.
It gets better and better every day.
Yes, the comedy never ceases to amaze me. Where would we be without such comedy? Came across an article, California 40 years ago. It's just wearing pink amongst gays in solidarity, hardly surprising, many unhappy. Clearly, authorities don't know history. Yes, very much. Yes. And before that, there was the Star of David as well, for another group of people in Germany. Yes, there's a lot of those things, both voluntary or involuntary, symbol wearing and making sure you're part of a group, whether you're to be personally either loved or discriminated, depending on what depending on what the authorities want you to classify you as. Was there stuff about, I think yourself, your mum, and stuff like that? Yep. Thanks, Shell. Oops. And g'day. India's been a while. I'm disappointed after being more carnivore for 3.5 years. Not prevented my recent diagnosis of malignant breast cancer, and now as an unwashed, I am having to access hospital for surgery and treatment. Look, when you've got a lot of mitochondrial damage, you've already done you've had years and years of a different diet and a lot of mitochondrial damage. It's the stuff that I actually talked about earlier, where people have got still running high blood sugars because they've got more mitochondrial damage. They can't utilize fat. I've had one lady that was really damaged in terms of mitochondria, multiple cancers, multiple chemotherapies and all that, and had so much derangement and damage to her mitochondria. Anything she ate just basically raised her blood sugar, even fat, anything. So, it's just basically a lot of damage. And sort of, I hope you've seen my cancer protocol and deuterium depleting water to try and get the mitochondria and the cells to shift back into a non-cancerous state. Go and take a look at that video. They do it for dogs. They're using metabolic water to reverse their cancer. It's registered in the EU, the European Union. If you want to go down the other pathway, that's your choice. I can't tell you how to run your life, but go and check that video before you start doing more damage to your mitochondria with radiation. Also, taurine can protect against chemotherapy stuff and all that. So high dose of taurine can be protective against the damages of chemotherapy. The other thing that regulates cancer cells in prostate tissue and in breast tissue is basically, again, vitamin D. Is your vitamin D high or low? If it's not high, your T lymphocytes are going to be in the toilet, so you can't defend and clear out and take out those cancer cells. And if your T lymphocytes are not functioning well because of lack of sufficient taurine or vitamin D, also vitamin D regulates the enzymes that control cell proliferation in those tissues. So if your vitamin D is low, you can't regulate those enzymes in there, and you can't regulate cell proliferation in that tissue. Carnivore diet isn't a panacea. Just because you start eating some meat that it's going to fix a whole lot of other problems. You've got to fix your vitamin D status. You've got to fix these other things, and you've got to basically fix the deuterium accumulation that you've done and damage over a number of years. It's you may have got bad advice from other people that just told you to just eat a steak and they'll do it. I don't use that sort of. I go into more details about how to fix things. So go and check the video. Yep. Where I'm supposed to do a second one. I just noticed your message. I'm supposed to do a second one. I'm getting to do it to cover the taurine side, to cover a number of other sides about T lymphocytes and all sorts of other things, and how to biohack and how to fix up senescent T lymphocytes. And there's a lot of things. It goes into sorting those out, things that actually work and things that actually fix the body, because ancestrally cancer was unheard of. The ancestral societies did not have cancer. They didn't talk about cancer. People like the Inuit were considered cancer free when they were looked at, or cardiovascular free. They just couldn't understand. These are high, heavy meat diets. But the thing that they were consuming very high as well wasn't only heavy meat, but a lot of fat, and fat that was very low in deuterium. That was the difference. That was basically making sure that their mitochondria were not basically being damaged, and they were able to produce sufficient energy to have proper cellular function. So they would just eventually go to end of cell division and then die, which is the way people are supposed to die, not this decline in damaging energy. And you see now people, like older people in walking frames, have got so little energy and are slowly dying and degrading, because that's what's happening. Where's it? I'm trying to remember. The other thing, fisetin, very important, which is the senolytics to kill off both cancer cells and senescent cells. So that's an important part as well. Let me just find those ones. I'll put them on the screen. So give me a sec. Oops. I'm surprised sometimes how way back I didn't. I actually forgot to do the sort of follow on. It's just sometimes I get distracted with a whole lot of. There's the Pfizer one that I did. Where's the cancer one?
I mean, you have covered a lot of topics over the years.
that?
So, I mean, you've covered a lot of topics over the years, so it's only natural to happen.
Yeah, look, you should see the amount of folders that I've got. I've got just the organized folders are well over 100. You know, it's just I've got a lot. I just don't have the time. Having a full-time job, I just don't have the fucking time to do. I want to do these things because there's a lot of people out there getting really poor information. But yeah, it's just it aggravates me that I don't have enough time. Probably should Google this. Probably find it faster. I'm hopeless at finding things by moving through this. That was the coal name. No, not that one. Don't even remember what I named it. Here it is. God, 8 months ago. Bloody hell. Is that the last time I basically did it? Hell, that was a bit of a time ago. So I haven't done the follow-up. I was supposed to do the follow-up a couple of weeks later. Oops. Oopsie. Okay. I'm really behind on that one, aren't I? Anyway, need to do that. Mental note. Oh boy. Okay, now that's the one there that was about. So that's the Can One Survive Cancer, and I've put protocol in that. Yeah, probably not. They're probably alluding to some of the stuff, but yeah. So I'll grab that and yeah, because a diet won't fix things when there's a lot of derangement. You sort of, it's not like, as I say, being on an ancestral diet from birth to death is fine. But if you've got a lot of damage, so that's the what in the beginning. And look at it, and this is really important. Look at the pathways. I'll give that joker a miss. My beautiful medical disclaimer. Medical disclaimer. All the content shown on the Harry Serpanos Phytotin, the senolytic, which, yep. So do please go and check those out. That will give you a bit of a heads up in regards to those, what I'm talking about and all that. Look, I wish more people had actually looked at those. Unfortunately, they just haven't, and a lot of people are sort of perplexed. I probably have to. I need to do a deuterium video as well to really explain deuterium properly, as well. I realise that, so people can understand it both in the normal cellular function, but in also cancerous states, and how you go about reverting things and stuff like that and explaining all that properly so people can then share that information and go, okay, this is a strategy I can use. And actually showing those studies with the dogs using DDW 25 and how they actually reverted and actually shrunk the tumors, the facial tumors on that dog, that sort of stuff. So yeah, dogs and cats are very susceptible to, because of taurine deficiency and also vitamin D, for T lymphocytes. That's really what it is. Dogs and cats, it's endemic, the amount, because on kibble crap nowadays, it's endemic, the amount of cancers in dogs and cats, unheard of in the past. Now it's a growth industry within the veterinary business. It's a growth industry. And what a veterinary, you go to a veterinary surgeon, they give you a kibble diet for the dog. Keep the cancer coming, keep the dog coming in so I can make some squids. It's really that bad, And if you basically, because they don't have the ability to synthesize taurine like we have, we just lose it when we get 65 and over. So they really are dependent on the diet. They have to eat the taurine to get the high, the amount they need for their body, or otherwise things don't work very well. And it's not only other cellular functions and a dog or a cat becoming a bit less calm because the GABA effect, the calming effect of taurine, but also the T lymphocytes. It's not only the vitamin D, it's a combination of the two you need, the meat and the sun, in a sense. But yeah, that's a big bloody issue. And it's why we've seen this explosion in cancer. You've got the kibble damaging the mitochondria on the one side, and then taking out the sun and the meat that's actually the protective part on the other side. It's not accidental. And that's my personal opinion, my dear friends at the censor board of the YouTubia, AI, great buddies of mine. Please don't take me out. Yeah. So my friends here want to actually be able to see me now and then. Oops. Yeah. Yes. And the camel, yes. Basically, camels are cancer-free, and camels basically are the only animal that doesn't really show its age. Low deuterium diets are basically keep you younger. If you were from a young child into old age, you would really show a lot of youthfulness all the way through. But unfortunately, I just started about a couple of years ago myself as well, Helen and anyone else out there. So yes, it's going to be a long while before I catch up with a camel. I think the camel's got a few years ahead of me. It's got a bit of an advantage in that regard. Yes. But as Lukey knows, if I ever wanted to come back, I'd come back as a camel. Now let's grab that image. That was a great image. I actually do put it up now and then, and actually I have to laugh at myself. I do cycle through some of those images, and some of the ones with the Bowerbird with his big big piece out and some of that. I just fucking watch those and just giggle away like mad, like a little schoolgirl. Luckily, I said that without Fabnado being around. That would have really excited him.
Yeah, playing a dangerous game there.
Oh, he would have had a go at me if he was in the chat stream right now. He would have really had a go at me in that regard.
Absolutely.
Where's my lovely camel? Oh, look, mate, if you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at? That's the thing.
Precisely.
Most people take themselves far too serious, way too serious. Yes, Harry incarnates. There it is.
The final name just adds to the joke.
Oh, you know me, I can't help myself. A perfect specimen. He reincarnates into the thing, and he's got a double hump. Not one. Hey, Richard, double hump, mate. Double hump. Not one, double. Oh God!
Oh God.
Look at that specimen of animal. Absolutely top thing, top
This
notch.
is what peak performance looks like.
Yes, exactly. That's the performance difference in terms of humping, Richard. You could take notes. We've lost Lukey.
My God.
Exactly. Luke, I know everybody is different. Different cases are the basis of recommendation. Carnivore supplementation, 5 grams taurine, 5,000 IU's of vitamin D, and always cold. Yeah, well, that's interesting that you're always cold, because that that sort of tells me you've got a mitochondrial dysfunction. Something's not working properly. There's some sort of derangement there still happening that hasn't been resolved. Drop me a line, drop me an email. I do check my emails. I haven't checked any emails yet. It's, the Wednesday policy. So it'll be Wednesday when I will look at them, which is in a couple of days from now. Wednesday, Australian Eastern Standard Time. Not your Wednesday, my Wednesday. And and give it, because Luke's completely transformed himself, and there basically could be something other underlying. There are other issues as well. Can be methylation issues. There are a whole lot of other things. So we may have to, you may have to go and do some tests and sort of to be able to determine whether it is some of those other factors are at play as well. So drop me an email. Yep. Any thoughts on getting plaque on your teeth? Plaque on your teeth when going carnivore, and never had it before then. Okay, that's weird. That is weird, really weird. No, I haven't. I haven't really heard of that, AG. One quick way of actually removing a lot of that is by taking high doses of minoquinone 4, MK4. That really reverses it fast. Because sometimes, yes, you may actually go on that. You may basically, but the type of carnivore diet you may be insufficient. You may have higher requirements of minoquinone 4, of vitamin K2. People have, because look, you get vitamin K2, you'll convert some K1, and K1 can be found in both animal foods, but much more in plants. But not many people are very efficient. It's used for clotting factors, but it's very inefficient. So you get a very little bit. Then you get from either protein, from amino acids, or fiber. You can actually get bacteria producing it. But there can be substantially differences between one's gut microbiome and somebody else's. So you may be missing key bacterial strains in your gut that may not be causing you any issues, because you may have other beneficial bacteria that keep the nasties under control. So your gut may be working perfectly fine, but you may not have some of the other bacteria that are very important in actually synthesizing K2, minoquinone 4, because they create minoquinone 4. And so that is the additional stuff. And under those circumstances, you may need, with the fiber, some of the firmicutes and some of the other ones, they can also generate from fiber. So you take the fiber out, you can't generate enough. So trying to get some of those acid loving, like doing a kefir and stuff like that, trying to get some of the other bacterial strains can help over time. But in the short term, you can just, to really rapidly do it, high dose vitamin K2 from Advanced Orthomolecular, their K2 peak or whatever it's called. Grab one of those off iHerb, and that has 45 milligrams. So, those high doses are what the Japanese studies show to decalcify things, soft tissue, plus they do decalcify around the teeth as well. So if you do that for a couple of months, you will see a noticeable difference. The only other thing that could be at play is that the oral microbiome may be still deranged. And then there's that other oral Lactobacillus reuteri lozenge that you can actually get from the which is also on the iHerb from the Swedish company, and that also helps with improving the gut microbiome. The oral microbiome state of your mouth, because there could be issues there as well. So check both of that. I have done videos on that as well, so take a look. But yes. Focus on selenium. Yes, selenium's really good. Iodine. Yeah, that's the other things that I forgot about. Yeah, eggs, very important. Selenium is very important. If you take a look, and I should have mentioned that as well. Good one picking that up, Lukey. Selenium, iodine, B vitamins. It's the protocol of 3 months with vitamin D to rebuild a lot of those bacteria that produce a lot of the B vitamins. And then you get from the bacteria and the food that you eat. But the selenium and iodine is definitely, things, seafood, organ meats, and eggs that are the sort of sources of those things in that regard. And selenium is very important. If you take a look at the enzymes inside the actual thyroid gland, they're actually selenium iodine dependent, and a bit of zinc and stuff like that. But the majority of the receptor sites are selenium and iodine. So yeah, very well, good reminder. Thanks, Loki. Yep. What evolution of Freezer? Yes, yes. The latest incarnation, he's become an Omicron man, so yes, he's basically, it's part of the Greek alphabet, Omicron is a Greek, sort of part of the alphabet, the O, that's what it stands for. And yes, it seems that, it's become, it's a great spreader. It loves attaching itself to people much more than the others. But at the same time, it's less, you could say, less sort of, it's not as, you could say, causing as much pathology compared to the other variants in that regard. It's what happens with most things. They evolve into, where they can survive in the greater population, and it's like the common cold and stuff like that. They can survive, causing some, but being able to keep the host alive and spreading much easier. It's all about survival. So they adapt until they find the best survival strategy. They sort of stick to that. So yes, old Omicron may be around for a very long time. Bit like the common cold. So yes, unfortunately, even though he may not be as dangerous, the authorities may be driving us crazy for the next couple of years. That's the downside. Yes. In the end, they'll lobotomize us just to put us out of our misery. Yes. There's nothing like the M and the RNA part. Yes. Nothing like it. Yes. We love replicating things. Yes. Nothing like it. Yes. More the better. More the merrier. Go on, Scotty, go and see your personalized Jabba the Hutt friend, and yes, he'll give you all that sort of stuff. He loves to replicate inside you. Yes. I think he gets sexual pleasure from it.
My God, Harry, you seriously need to get some sleep.
Hey, you gotta be adventurous. Light-hearted. Apparently some of my friends, yeah. And I didn't even have alcohol. Damn, God, can you believe me if I had alcohol and came on the live stream? Shit.
I can only
Shit would
imagine.
really hit the fan. Banned from a year for a year from YouTube. For multiple indiscretions and multiple violations of the censorship board.
Oh God.
How's your experience? Good to see you, mate. Any updates on alternative jabbers like Nova, for example? Apparently January now. It was supposed to be it was supposed to be just before Christmas. We were supposed to get by Scott Morrison a Christmas gift, but he failed again to deliver. He failed to deliver his Christmas gift. So yes, he's sort of stressing out the his citizenry even more. Yes. Yes, it's very unfortunate. Yes, he's very poor at playing Santa. He's even very poor at being a credible politician. So I think he should give up both up. You know. So yes, but unfortunately, there are some people out there that are so brainwashed they think that he's great. So yes, crazy world, and the other side is no better. Unfortunately, they're both just as loony as each other. You know, so take your pick. Yeah, but hopefully, I sort of find myself next year. There's going to be an election. I find myself in the most difficult spot in my life ever, trying to decide not to vote for the first time in my life. You know, or hoping that there are some sort of independents out there that emerge that haven't emerged really yet, that are basically making some sense and saying this is just nonsense. And, you know, it's probably going to be in the upper house and all that. I've even had friends trying to encourage me to get into that mad circus. Said, you're pretty good at that. You've been doing public speaking and all that for years, and you're pretty good at that. You should jump into that mad circus. And I'm going, I'm thinking, yeah, do I really want to? Look, I never say never, but at the same time, it's a crazy world and dangerous world and all that sort of stuff at the moment. I don't know. I'm milling a lot of things through my mind at the moment. Yes.
Yeah, it's fairly understandable, Harry.
Yes, and I'll probably and if I was to say yes, I'd probably get a scream from my partner saying, "Are you fucking mad?" Something along those lines. But anyway, yes, she'd probably Anyway, I won't go into any stuff. But move on before I upset other people in my life. Anyway, I got to disappear. Yeah, we know why. Just be honest about it, Richard. Yeah, thanks, mate, for being here, and appreciated you turning up to the Zoom sessions. That was pretty good effort. You turned up quite a few times. God, he was mousing around. Yes. yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Yeah, exactly. You know that his attitude would be like that. But look, even though somebody else told me that his brother was, but it doesn't really make any difference. The major political parties are in sync on this. The media are in sync. Everybody's in sync. You know, whether it was him or somebody else, it'd still be, they'd all be in the same situation. As I said, we really need to basically awaken the desire for freedom and anti-tyranny in, you could say, the silent majority of those middle class people that basically are more fearful of the bogeyman, the corona bogeyman, and basically need to consider what they're losing and what they're throwing away. You know, so thank you, StreamYard, for just bloody blasting everything. Yep. Yeah, so anyway. Well said, Trouble. Sheep to tender to my... Exactly. Well said. I couldn't have said it better myself. Rod Pernell both questioned Murdoch's role in Australian politics. Murdoch allegedly is a major FISBE Oh, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. He'd be up to his armpits. I mean, these people have got, remember, they're indemnified. Doesn't matter what happens. They are not coughing up any money. Do you imagine putting out a product and having no consumer protection for that product? Zero. Anything that happens to the consumer, you're not liable. You're 100% zero liability. What a product. You could sell anything. Cyanide. It doesn't matter. You've got 100% indemnification. It's a perfect business model. Having politician friends like that, who needs, is basically a license to print money. It's basically corporate heaven. It's absolute corporate heaven. Completely, you can do whatever you like. Sell whatever you like. Absolutely no consequences for you. It's fantastic, isn't it? What a world we live in. Gwyneth, hey Harry, what would you recommend for my grandmother who got a kidney stone and an accompanying infection? The stone has passed, but she seems to have been on antibiotic course, I think, of some probiotics. Yeah, I would look at some of the. You don't need a lot of the. See, if she's got still in her appendix, it's like the the chimps and the apes have got a cecum. It's where your gut microbiome is stored. So if you've still got your appendix, you can restore that. What you need is first to suppress any potential pathogenics from taking hold in the system, and that's through. Go and check my videos on that on the Reuteri strains. I've just do Reuteri, Harry Serpanos. You'll find those videos. You'll find the information, links to the iHerb stuff. Get the gut stuff. You need that to suppress the pathogenic bacteria. Need a bit of taurine as well because that improves stomach acidity and also bile flow, which means that it will she'll clean out her small intestine and prevent any SIBO sort of activity in this interim period, which is really important, which older people tend to be a bit more susceptible to. There may still be a bit of oxalate around because he's probably eating those sort of foods. So make sure that even lemon juice, it's easy to sell lemon juice. Then I would use it like a citric acid supplement, but some people just can't tolerate it. I know that Hello Kitty tried it and she said, "Oh, this is shit." I gave her some. She said, "I can't consume it." I said, "Just use lemons then." Yeah, look, some people it's just, I can literally eat into a raw lemon like that. I just, for me it's whatever. But some people just can't.
I love limes.
Yeah, so those are the sort of things you need to do. Taurine is also very important because when it comes to kidney damage from the stones, you'll get some scar tissue, and that scar tissue can be sorted out by taurine because it does break down fibrotic tissue, which is really important and has a sort of an antioxidant type effect as well in that tissue that's inflamed. So it's really important that she gets a bit of that if she's not eating enough meat, because I suspect, she's probably kidney stones, usually very much associated with more kibble eating, unfortunately. So sometimes it's easy to sell her on a supplement like taurine rather than but remember the blood pressure thing. If she's got blood pressure meds, you have to go slow, and she needs to adjust the meds with a doctor in that regard. So those are the things that I would sort of do at this stage in that regard. And if the infection is cleared out, and she doesn't have anything, that's the other thing about taurine as well. When it comes to, it can have some suppressive effects on some of the infection, which is another good thing about it. Plus, those other probiotics that I talked about have also a suppression on some of these, some of these bacterial strains. But it sometimes takes time for the inflammation to come down and things to settle down a bit. So those are the things that I can think off the top of my head without knowing her extensive history and what other things may be driving factors and stuff like that. That's just talking in general. So, and you're not going to harm the person. And if you give them also B vitamins to try and restore to as those gut that you, from your appendix, as those bacteria strains that are there to be restored, you need to basically support them with vitamin D and also the B vitamin. Remember, only for 3 months, no more, because of the pantothenic acid issue and insomnia. So below 50 milligrams, they have to be all, and make sure that they, there's no bullshit type things like folic acid and stuff like that. They have to be like folate, methylfolate, methylcobalamin. They have to be the proper stuff, not the cyano crap and stuff like that. So get a good quality one. You can find on iHerb as well for a good price. There's one there with a lot of sort of other sort of compounds that, some people may like that. It's up to them. I leave it up to them to decide which way to go. I've tried them before, but yes. Oh, yes, I'm definitely in party mode, sure. I'm definitely in party mode. Yes. Yeah, iHerb. Check iHerb. Yeah, I've done links before. Adia has skin cancer as well. Some Pfizer would probably help you. Go and check the ones that I put down are very helpful. I usually recommend with cancer, with retinol is actually like the Rosita cod liver oil. The Rosita cod liver oil, which is the one that actually is done properly, that's not oxidized and full of aldehydes and all that. I don't recommend those doing them long term, but short term, yes. Because I don't believe in excessive amounts of DHA and stuff like that either. But there is retinol in that, and she may need, or basically, can you get her to eat a bit of liver? And a bit of that's even cheaper. You don't even have to buy the Rosita oil because you just need or you just pretty much need to get her to eat some eggs and some liver or yolks to get the retinol. She needs to get the retinol up because that's going to help with this. Again, the collagen degrading enzymes that regulate the skin. While vitamin D does play a role in the skin, the two main fat soluble vitamins that play a role in regulating those MMPs is pretty much retinol and minoquinone 4. And to some extent also helping with the UV part of things is niacin, which is really good for the skin. But, you don't need to, in her case, she may not be able to tolerate with the sort of skin lesions, the sort of histamine effect of the niacin. So just try and encourage her if you can. I know it's really hard to get her to eat pork, which is a really good source of niacin, but maybe tuna is more palatable for her in that regard. So it may be easier for her to convince her to eat tuna, which is also a good source of niacin. So, yep. You have to work with the people, Luke. You have to really work with the people because they're older. They're set in their ways in certain ways, and you have to basically go, what are they going to use, and what are they going to just ignore? So to get them, it's sometimes doing a bit of good. Sometimes you can't do 100% because the person isn't willing, or to make that transition, that mental. But if they actually see benefits with some, then they may be willing. So yep, those links, you've got them, and do please check them out, and do consider your options. And I'll try and get a video done on the deuterium and the cancer side and stuff like that, and showing some of the results that those animals are getting. And only if the FDA had the balls and didn't have a whole lot of cockwombles that are industry thugs that run that place, we would basically get really good science out of that. Laszlo Boris has been trying now, he's the academic out of UCLA in the US, in California. He's been trying now for a number of years to try and get the FDA to look at the research that they've actually presented. And they're just ignoring it. They've shelved it away and ignoring it. Can you imagine if people realize they could use metabolic water to change their deuterium status inside their body in order to get their, their mitochondria to start working properly again, to downregulate the oncogenes, reverse their cancerous state back into senescence, and then use Pfizer to blow them away and other techniques? Can you imagine? We're talking billions and billions. It's actually probably a trillion, globally, $1 trillion industry would be wiped out completely and utterly. And good riddance, I say. And if you took out the key culprits like the seed oils, which are very high in deuterium, 255 parts per million, double nearly that of sugar, you took that, which is 40% of the diet now in most people. 40% of their diet is coming from basically seed oils. It's in everything, all packaged foods, everything that's cooked in restaurants and everywhere else, takeaways or whatever. It's all seed oil, seed oil, seed oil. So refined sugars and seed oil. But the seed oil is the worst for the mitochondria, in particular when it comes to cancer and all these other things. You're damaging your ability to generate energy. You're reverting to more primitive forms of energy. That's a cancerous state, and that's what a lot of people have done. And some people say, well, I didn't do as bad diet as somebody else. Why haven't they got cancer? Why am I so fucking unlucky? They say. I get that sometimes from people. I can see the anger, I can see the frustration, I can see why they are pissed off. I was bad, but not as bad as somebody else, but I get cancer, not that other person. Well, it's simple. Detox capacity. I've actually I did a lot of damage to my cardiovascular system, but I've got longevity genes and I've got very high detoxification capacity. But I was basically alcohol, smoking, pizza boxes in my fridge. I mean, I was just like uber junk food, uber sad dieter, uber everything, So I was one of those people. I should have got cancer if I had poor capacity to deal with the damage. But when you've got actually better capacity to deal with it, because you've got these sort of longevity pathways that can actually fix things much faster than other people, I make sure able to hold back how severe that damage happens, doing the same thing that somebody else does who doesn't have that. That's why some people are very susceptible to certain sort of environmental toxins and all that, where other people are not. The same things. Why? Again, the capacity to detox and deal. Much better P450 capacity. I've got really high P450, to detox. So that's the difference. These are the sort of differences, the pathways. That is why certain people can tolerate. It's like the ApoE. Some people can tolerate a mixed diet far more than others because of the ApoE. How quick that stuff gets into the liver will depend how insulin resistant that and the gradient of the Randall cycle is activated because of your ApoE status and how much you can tolerate in the mixed type of energy forms that you take in. Yeah, genes are, life's a bee, as they say, unfortunately for some of us have certain genes that predispose us, and make us more risk averse to certain lifestyles, modern lifestyles. It's just the way it is, unfortunately, sorry to say. But, you can't sit around basically crying about your genes. That's what you inherited. You need to basically get on with the job of sorting things out, and basically buckling down and saying, okay, I need to find out exactly how to restore proper cellular function and how to eliminate these, how to strengthen my T lymphocytes, my thymus, how to do those things. And if you're not on blood pressure meds, I would slowly push myself right up to 10, grams of taurine. You can tolerate up to that high. If you're feeling about wheezy and all that, spread it out. Don't have it in one hit. Definitely not. Spread it out in like 2 grams, 2 grams, 2 grams, 5 times a day, with a couple of hours in between. by spreading it out like that, you can tolerate much higher and work towards it. Go like twice, about 4 grams of, for a couple of days, and then, for a week, and then move up to, to slightly to 6 grams, and then sort of transition to 4 and to 8, and then to 10. So you're trying to fix a lot of things, and I know, and it's going to put a strain. Sometimes you may feel a bit of nausea, and you're probably going to be feeling nausea from the cancer and a whole lot of other things. It's not easy. I found myself in the same situation, Indy. I mean, I had my chest ripped open. I woke up the next day. I fucking cried like a little baby. I'm not kidding you. And realized, fuck, what has happened? Why did this happen to me? Yeah, saw that seed oil and all the other stuff and all the other things that I'd done, but I wasn't completely unaware because nobody had told me all that was good. And I picked myself up and I literally walked around. It's going around the actual the ward. There was still this big loop, and I did the whole loop within the cardiology department, and came back, and it was about 600 meters or whatever. And I did that, and by the time I got back, I was so tired I just fell asleep like that. Pain, forget about it. I didn't feel pain or anything. I just fell asleep. I was so tired. And then the next days I was getting up. I said, I'm not going to die. I'm going to basically do something and fix myself. And I started walking around continuously, exercising my heart and doing all that. I probably wouldn't have done that exactly, but, walking around was probably getting movement. I wasn't, jogging or running or anything. I just was walking around continuously. And so like, midday persistent hunters, walking and then sprinting, that's normal. And you're not straining, but you're actually maintaining good cardiovascular function. You're exercising that muscle, which is good. And you're also basically producing more nitric oxide by movement, which is really good for vasodilation and stuff like that. So I was doing without knowing all this stuff, and let alone I'd stop at different sort of places to chat with the nurses. I was well known. One of the nurses used to run after me because I used to have my back literally robe half open. You could see my bum, and she goes, "Mr. Serpanos, please." And she'd run and try and said, "God, haven't you seen all this before?" I said to her. So yes, they know me quite well down there. Let's put it that way. They even called me to talk to someone once. Yeah.
I see. So your fame isn't restricted to YouTube.
No. It's in many places. Many people do know me. Once they get to meet me, it's I'm hard to forget in that regard. Yep. Thank you. Yes, none of us can. Yes, we know the one you're talking about, the N1. Anyway, we can Jabba the Hutt cause night sweats? I've never had these before. Having a close and personal relationship with Jabba. I am 70 years old. Bye-bye. I haven't heard about night sweats. Nobody's actually... Have you heard anyone talking about night sweats? All that?
No, not really.
Okay. Look, I've known of certain viruses like the common cold and stuff like that can cause severe night sweats, and sort of influenza type things can cause. So it's a corona V as well. It's part of that family. It could be that effect. I haven't really heard anyone that has say that, but maybe some people react a bit differently in that regard. So see, sometimes somebody can get influenza or a common cold and not get any night sweats, and others can. So people do react differently because of genetics and many other things. So it could be just that, you're reacting differently compared to other people. So I can't think of anything else. Can you, Lukey? Or, that's the only thing I can think of.
Pretty sure
I'm just extrapolating from the common cold and influenza sort of symptoms that other people have. That's
Yeah, that's what I thought about as well. Because I have heard from a few people.
What would your thought go for that symptoms off the top of your head? What your thought go if you're getting certain of those symptoms? What is not working as well to clear things? I talked about earlier. You wouldn't have done very well in my class, would have you? Starts with a T.
Oh, sorry.
No, T cells.
T cells, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So T.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, if you've got, because over 70, you definitely have lower taurine synthesis, and over 70, that means you're also going to have lower T cell capacity. So that means you may be having these sort of effects like low-grade symptoms of like the disease itself and all that, but not being able to clear it properly. So you've got a clearance problem. That could end up long jabber symptoms. As a consequence of that, you could fall into one of those categories of as a potential. I would up my taurine. Remember always the blood pressure issues. So you have to go slow if you're on those meds, or bring them down and make adjustments with your doctor. But basically, I would up my vitamin D and my taurine ASAP. Go slow with the taurine and then build it up and spread it out throughout the day. So, because we need clearance, you need to clear things out. You need your T cells to go around and go, you shouldn't be here. I'm going to take you out. Go into your cells and all that. See, remember, your antibodies can't go into your cells. Your antibodies can't go into your cells, but your T cells can. They can go in there and clear all that stuff out. You need to clear it out so you don't have this constant months and months of reactivity. And you can't get rid of Jabba the Hutt, get him out of your home or out of your body. So, yes, you need to clear him out, and you need good T lymphocytes functioning really well. You're welcome. Yeah, it's sort of the typical stuff and all that. I mean, God, estrogen blockers. Choline, great methylator of estrogen. It's in animal foods. The bad. You can't eat that sort of stuff. Awful stuff. Just give them some pharmaceutical. Yep, exactly. Good. Well said, Shell. Yeah, contact me. And I will try and get that other video, the second part, the follow-on that I didn't do. People need to see that sort of stuff. Hopefully the YouTube, you don't take it down. I'm always fearful about that because I have to be very careful how I word everything, because you can't make medical claims whatsoever. So I have to be really, really careful how I word it, because sometimes I tend to basically just talk without thinking, engaging my mind and saying, I do think about the information, but I don't think about the consequence, because I have to start thinking about censorship. I sometimes forget that I'm in a censored world. So, yeah, that's how I got caught out last time. And I got a reprimand and a slap on the knuckles by my dear, close and loving friends from YouTube. So, yes. So basically, to avoid a second slap, because it could have been a bit more, exciting, a bum slap, I mean, but it's, it's all these knuckle slaps and all that, it has to be painful by them. It has to be, there's nothing pleasant in the way they approach you whatsoever.
Yeah, they don't know how to be
pleasant. Exactly. They don't know how to be pleasant about it, Yes, make sure you got good taurine levels, because it is both radiation and chemoprotective as well, and iodine as well. Yes, consider the iodine as well with the radiation stuff. The chemotherapy stuff is more, the taurine plays a bigger role there, but it doesn't play. It has also an effect, like an antioxidant effect within the radiation side of things, but the iodine plays a bigger role, and selenium. Selenium is really important. They actually did a randomized. This is studies back a couple of years ago. I remember reading it in a magazine as I was flying. It was a New Scientist. Was it New Scientist? I think it was New Scientist. Anyway, they talked about a Polish study, which was a follow-on on an American study where they used high-dose selenium. Like it was 200 micrograms in the American one, 250 micrograms in the Polish one. Poland, the soils of Poland are very poor in selenium. So they tend to have higher cancer sort of rates compared to many other parts of Europe. They were able to reduce between the control, the placebo group, and the intervention group. They were able to reduce the cancer by 46%. That means in absolute terms, not in relative terms. In absolute terms, they were able to reduce, the numbers as a percentage of the people that were actually in the intervention group. That is massive. That's the power of selenium as a powerful, sort of substance that has antioxidant, but a number of other effects as cofactor for a number of enzymes that are very important in cellular function and energy production as well. Selenium as well. It has a lot of roles, both hormonal, energy production. It goes on and on, like a lot of these things that are in animal foods that we sort of neglect. We don't eat enough eggs, which is a good source of selenium. Liver is another good source of selenium. A lot of the organ meats and stuff like that. Certain seafood is very good for selenium as well. So we neglect these foods, and iodine and all that sort of stuff. So do keep those in mind as well. Oops, and that was that one. Yep. And that was the other one. And you're welcome from all of us. Hope you get things go better for you. Yeah, you're in a look, I've been in those dark moments myself with my cardiovascular. It's not the same, but I know what you're going through. You're in mental anguish and all that, and yeah. So I know how you feel. Be strong, have hope. Look at this sort of stuff. Please have hope. Don't give up. That's really important, to have that positive mind frame going into this. It'll push up your endorphins. It'll actually really even, have a stronger placebo effect. Your body can heal to some extent by having that sort of stronger positive, that, you've got a lot of information, a lot of friends here that care for you. So, and you've got a lot of info to look into as well. And my email, contact me. Not a problem. Well, you've overexerted yourself with your focus on me and Richard. But it was great having you here. Take care, Trouble. Looks like we can get camel meat at Petersburg. Oh, really? Abattoir in South Australia. Okay. That's a new one, because it's a low deuterium meat. It's I was talking to UAE Biff, and the issues over there, they've had a lot of had more access, but they've actually, they used to have animals like camels and all that closer in, but now they're being forced to actually relocate them and have less. You can't have as many. There's all these permits because they're becoming a modern society. So yes, the majority of camels, even when they get them for camel races and stuff like that, it'd be fun actually racing a camel. I've ridden a horse, a donkey, and stuff like that, but I've never. Yeah, I have to put it in my bucket list. I have to ride a camel. Maybe I could enter a race as well. That would be fun as anyway. Getting back to the live stream. Yes, Harry's mind is wandering elsewhere. Might need to check it out. I intend to visit the camel milk farm in Robe, South Australia next time I'm in the southeast. Yeah, okay, interesting, Helen. Yeah, I know that basically they sell it as animal raw milk for pets, but that's fine. You know, it's not really pet food, but yeah. So that's the thing. Yeah, I'd be definitely interested. I'm going to look into it as well. Yes. I'm going to have to blast off soon because I realised, I'll have to jump in and have a really quick shower, put some clothes on and piss off over at Dad's place. So, yeah, so I'm in that regard. Yeah, there's next time. It's going to be next Saturday in that regard. It's a flavonoid. Yeah, it's the highest source of it is basically in strawberries. Like all other plants and stuff like that, you will find it in animal flesh in very small amounts because they eat certain things and they accumulate it, but very little. It's primarily in plants. As I said, plants are basically, I view plants as compounds which have certain therapeutics, but I don't view them. Now, it's not good, as I said, it's not good to basically consume fisetin every day, like strawberries every day, because it's very high in fisetin, strawberries. Why? Because it also suppresses mTOR. And, we need to build tissue, muscle, and skeletal. So if you're eating high amounts of that, you probably may inhibit some of those functions. So, it's all about using it in a biohacky way without basically, and remember, we're not on an ancestral diet. We're not like the Maasai or the Inuit or like that, living on an ancestral diet and going through life without a lot of cellular damage or mitochondrial damage and then just dropping dead through, end of life, cell division. We are basically been on a kibble diet for a number of years, doing that decline, creating a lot of damage. And the more damage we create, more senescent cells, more of those senescent cells excrete inflammatory cytokines, damaging more neighboring cells. And so it's a fight between trying to clear them out to eliminate as many possible, to basically allow more healthy cells to dominate in our system, to keep our organs functioning for longer so we can stay alive for longer, pretty much, in a sense, in a very basic way of actually saying it. So, yes. And, we're not vegans that basically say we exclude plant foods. That's a vegan ideology. We're not anybody that actually says that in the carnivore community usually is an ex-vegan, which is just another fanatic from a plant-based fanatic to a meat-based fanatic. I do not have any time for those sort of people. Plant compounds, even our ancestors, the shamans of our ancestors, used plant compounds for medicinal purposes. And, because they've got the hormetic effect. And certain things, they noticed that certain lesions or certain things or certain compounds could have an antibiotic effect if somebody got a skin cut or whatever. And our ancestors used that. So there's nothing wrong with using plant compounds, not as food, but as sort of compounds that can have certain therapeutics in the right dosages and all that. And that's how we use them. So I don't see it as an incompatible to an ancestral lifestyle in that regard at all. We all have our opinions, sure. The problem with a lot of people, sure, is when they do consume fisetin, they don't consume it with a lot of fat. It is very poorly absorbed. That's why I usually basically take it out of the capsule, put it in some cream, mix it up, and actually consume it like that. That's what I've said to other people as well, even in that video, for higher bioabsorption, because you just can't absorb it as well. Yep. Yes, I know you're an aficionado now, aren't you? Are you coming over to Dad's or not? What's your thought? Or are you doing other things? Are you busy, my dear? Send me a message if you're interested. And I'm going to cycle through some of this really quickly. You're welcome. And let's see. Do I get to the bottom? Is there another one that I missed, Lukey, there?
Yeah, I just posted one.
Okay, I better put it up. I can't neglect the that part of things. See, and yes, definitely hit the like button, please. And I'll just hold off on that and share the screen. Oops, not that. Wrong button. Lactoferrin, nanotechnology. Lactoferrin has been used. Lactoferrin has been used to synthesize fluorescent gold quantum clusters, which are a potential application of nanotechnology. In that regard, nanomachines, mate. Yeah, I like the sort of Terminator eyes and the grin.
It's a nice nickname.
Yes, nothing like it in that regard. So, yep. And I'm basically on the last one. Helen's actually had to delete my earlier post on camel meat. Live chat obviously didn't. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, look, I would love to try. I have never tried camel meat, and I would literally love to see if I can get access. So I'm going to do a bit of investigation myself, and yeah, I'd be really interested. I actually got to the bottom of the live stream, Lukey. Can you believe that? On a Saturday morning? Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Incredible.
This is unprecedented.
It's like an achievement for me. I feel like it's sort of like it's one of those special revelation type moments. You've done it. And then I tell them all so they can actually flood the damn thing.
Exactly. Yes, because we can't let you win that easily.
Yes, exactly. Let the floodgates begin. Now, while I can get away from this crowd, I'll just say goodbye. Thanks for being here, everyone. I appreciate it. Just stay on, Luke. I just want to chat with you about something. So I appreciate everyone being here. Thanks for being part of this live stream. Please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you're a Vagoon, please dislike. The AI will love you and love me in an indirect way, as long as it doesn't censor me too much. But, it will love me for that moment. It will be a momentarily love affair. But, yes. Oops. Yes, exactly. You've had some ice cream. I've actually been off the ice cream for a couple of weeks now. I feel deprived. I feel, I walk past the aisle and go, no, don't do it, Harry. Don't do it. Keep on walking. Keep on walking. I look back and I go, no, keep on walking. So yes, I've been quite stressed. I'm having ice cream withdrawal symptoms and stress. Mental anguish. I need to go and actually, people at work, they go, oh, you need to go and do that EAP. It's sort of like an employee assessment program if you're stressed about Jabba the Hutt and everything else. And I go, I need to go do one for about ice cream. Turn up. While you're here, forget about Jabba. I've got an ice cream issue. Can we discuss it? So, yes, in that regard. Oh yeah, I know. It's disappointing. Asia experience. It is really disappointing. You know, they won't even show the amount of dislikes. It's really annoying. I can see them, but nobody else can see them. You know, it's really damn annoying. You know, I think people should know how many vegans dislike me.
Right? Yeah, that's part of the fun. I always want to see how many vegans have turned up.
Exactly. I mean, that was a giveaway. You can actually look and go, oh, there's so many around at the moment and all that. You know, so yeah, I have to go like inside that menu type thing to be able to see for the specific video how many dislikes and all that. You can't see it on the front, like the front, your main screen and stuff like that. You have to go inside where in the studio where you can actually see all your videos and all that. And you can actually see how many likes and dislikes, comments and all that were in against that. So you can see the statistics. So yeah, even I, have to go directly in. It's just damn annoying. That's all I can say. Anyway, that is in the About button. Hold on. Let me. It's in the About tab on the channel, but I will go and find it because I don't have to do the the little thing where you have to sort of determine. What is it doing? Oops. And there's the actual email. Yep. Might as well just put in the live. Yeah, but for everyone to know. Yes. iPads. Yeah. And sometimes on certain devices, you can't actually see it properly, or the options. Yep. So there's always, because she could be not on a PC as well. I actually noticed that half the people are actually on phone. More than half the people actually watch me on their phone, not on any other thing. So I was surprised. I looked at the statistics recently and I go, oh, that's interesting. So people are just doing other things or at work, or I know one guy's a truck driver and he basically watches me as he's driving. So, so everybody's got their own way. Yeah. Good to see you, mate. Thanks for being on the Zoom session quite a bit. I think you and Paul actually enjoyed that those long sessions, which was great. It kept the Zoom thing alive. Which thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here as well. I'm just about to go because I have to go over to Dad's place. He's waiting for me, and I need to have a quick shower, and I haven't even had a shower yet, so I just shave and all that. But yes. In that regard, you're welcome. Take care, and God bless everyone. And take care, guys. And thanks for being here. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit it. And we will leave it at that. See yous.
Stay well, everyone.